Hello and welcome to Draft Championship 3, the finals. We are here at the Dice Cup in Nottingham, one of the best LGSs in the country, and almost certainly the best place to play limited Magic. We normally have at least 2 pods worth of drafters on a Friday night, and that has enabled us to run a competition over the last 6 months, and that is how our top 8 have got here for a free draft of Modern Horizons 3. For the qualifying events, which is approximately 2 per month over the last 6 months, those qualifying events have contributed to the standings that you can see here. So to make it into the top 8, players have needed to come first or second in the draft 3-0s list. Then we take 3 players from the win percentage list and 3 players from the overall points list to give us our 8 drafters here for the Draft Championship 3 finals. And with that, we are going to go straight into the coverage of the draft. We're going to be watching a feature drafter as well as one match from each of the 3 rounds, where the 3rd round will be our final. The coveted prize for today's event is some custom sleeves that people can use for their draft kits in the future. It will have the Draft Champion logo as well as the Dice Cup logo on it and their choice of MTG card art. And with that, let's just get started, shall we? And to help us through the draft, I have brought Jake along. He's a very strong drafter, one of our regulars at the Dice Cup, and he's always a pleasure to hang out with. Hey, Jake.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no worries. So this is the draft table. We've got Dan passing to James, then Steve, then Stephen W, Kieran, Stephen R, Dan H, and then me. And we'll go straight into pack 1.
I'm looking at the cards through the.
What do you like in this one then, Jake?
So I'm looking through the pack. First of all, that first card that jumps out to me is that card's really good. See here Dan moving Warren Soul Trader pack. Seems that's in his end as a first pick potential.
It's an interesting one. I don't think that's a very strong rare in the set at all. And maybe suggests to me that Dan wants to play black in this draft.
Yeah, I think if you're in a strong Delta type, that card can have its place. Do you see Eleventh Rumble as a better pack one green premium set?
Yeah, I think I'd 100% would just be taking the Rumble.
Yeah, I have no problem with Dan placing his foot down here and taking the black rare. He's got a sense that black might be open, might be flowing later on.
So, as you can see from the graphic, I am drafting to Dan's right and have just passed him this polluted delta. I wanted to win this draft. I didn't want the money. Dan obviously made the opposite decision. But there was an Eldrazi repurposer in there that would have probably been the best pick.
Yeah, Eldrazi RPS Purposer was a great card. This set, being able to play that on turn 3 and then follow it up with bigger Eldrazi's later down the line was really powerful.
Yeah, 3 mana 3/3 that you just like. When you're playing against it, you just don't want to remove it, right? Because you're just giving them the more value from your stuff.
Ghostfire Slice here seems a great pick. Premium removal, I would say.
Yeah, I didn't put this card to the front for him. My first pick was actually the Amped Raptor. I took that over Polluted Delta. I think it's one of the best uncommons in the set. And as I say, I was doing what I can to get a stronger deck as possible.
Yeah, definitely. Ghostfire Slice will be a great card in Dan's deck if he can stay red. Speaking of which, in this pack, there is the Pyromancer, the 2-mana 2 haste. That card can be good in aggressive red synergy-based decks.
Yeah.
To the front, there's also an Altasaur, which is the large Cascade dinosaur.
To what extent do you think I've passed green cards and therefore I'm not going to take any normally when you draft?
I think Dan's taken a bit of a decision here to move from the green. Feels like it's going to be very contested later down. His first few picks kind of showed that he's willing to be flexible. I think the problem that he may be facing now is that the green cards are just really good.
Yeah.
We see another removal spell. He's going to go ahead and take that.
Yeah, the packs, there's quite a loud signal I think here that green and red are there's quite a few good, decent enough cards at least in those colours. Maybe Dan's then just regretting his first couple of picks. Well, probably not regretting the polluted delta, knowing Dan. He loves himself a quick buck.
Yes. Hey, I'm not going to throw too much shade there. I think there's a reason to do so.
I mean, this is a free draft, right? This is your reward for doing well in the draft championship season. And if you're being presented with a reward, then just take it. That's fine.
Exactly. Yeah. Can't throw too much shade Dan's way. I do think he's going to be looking at the cards he's got so far, and that green is open, and perhaps maybe moving into that colour. You know, better late than never, I think, is what Dan will now see.
Yeah, I do think James is probably in green, just from passing the Rumble and the Eldrazi Repurposer. James is also the type of player who will like playing grindy value decks. Would prefer to play slower decks in general. I quite often during a draft will look at the players to my left and my right and go, what types of decks do these people like to play, and can I send them strong enough signals that I know what decks I'm putting them in and stuff like that. So.
Sure.
I hope so. I don't want to be casting fake.
Don't see a great pick here, Dan, based on what he started with. Moves the land to the front. You know, these tricolor lands in MTG are really powerful. The ability to splash into different colours was really powerful. It basically meant that your later picks, the possibility for your later picks was much wider. I think that's what Dan's going for there. Identifying that he's taking some green and some red so far, taking that Jund, I believe it was.
Yeah, there's also a case of quite a few powerful cards that are colourless, and those it's almost like splashing for colourless sometimes as well.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of, here's one. This was one of those cards as well that I always thought was just, it managed to make its way into a lot of decks. I think the ability to cycle those early on or have them be actual 7-drops feel powerful. The next pack have a Discipline. That card was really powerful as well. I mean, these modal face cards, I mean, you can see Dan's got 3 of them now, so he's gonna maybe start thinking about whether or not just land count or just have a high count spells to grind better.
Did you have a general rule for these double face cards, for whether they were lands or spells, or was it just depending on which one it was?
I think it's depending on which one it was. I think there was a lot of them that you wanted to play as a land more than not, and then they had this situational benefit.
Yep.
And then there were definitely others that were just playable cards. I think Dan's got a mix of those now, so you know, he might be thinking about dropping one land, but
you don't seem too happy there, Kieran.
Interesting start. I think this is normally my drafting style, is just kind of move around quite a lot and find your lane late. It doesn't seem to work quite as well at top tables necessarily, and certainly found that it didn't work as well in MH3. I remember having quite a few discussions on Modern Horizons 3 and the fact that my win rate was much lower, just because I was staying open a little bit too late, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something that Dan's tried to do here. He's tried to stay open. As I said, he's moved into green, probably later than others would have in his seat, but I don't think that's a bad colour to have moved 2 regardless.
There's not really that much strength there in green though, right? It's the double face cards. It's not like there's a real strong reason to be in green, from what I see.
Yeah, for sure. I think Dan's going to be into pack 2 here to get some real direction as he's sat across the jungle pile.
Yeah.
I think there's a reason. I think this Nightshade Dryad, I knew when I was playing this set, whenever my opponent cast this on turn 2, there was a bit of a deep sigh. This card was really powerful. It felt like your opponent was just ahead, and then when they got ahead, they had a Death Touch block sitting around, which was really powerful. What do you think about that card?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, it's one of the many cards that enabled a turn 3. What's that card called again?
Did I predict correctly there?
You did predict correctly. I hated that card with, yes, some gusto.
Yeah, I don't vote there, but I think Dan will be sitting here hoping to see one of those cards pass to him. Let's have a look here in pack 2. I mean, Galvanic Discharge, that's a great reason to be in red, pre-removal spell.
Yeah, this is upsetting for me, because I guess you probably got an idea of it from pack 1, but I took a lot of white cards in pack 1. So Dan didn't see much in terms of white. I think he saw one Mandibular Kite, and I think that was it. And it felt bad me passing it.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
Father, how is the draft going?
Let's see Dan's pack here. Let's see if there's any.
I can see a rumble sticking out the back.
Sticking out the back. There's also Breaker of Creation here, which is the payoff for being in these large green colorless decks. So I think we might see Dan have a bit of a hard decision here. Go ahead and take the rumble.
Yeah. I think this is quite a different. He's not sure.
He's not sure. No. Moves back the Breaker of Creation. I think this is definitely definitely. What do you think about it in this spot?
It's like you say, it's enabler versus payoff.
Yeah, column A or column B.
And I would normally be taking. Is it that strong a payoff? I suppose it can be. I'd normally just take the Malevolent Rumble quite easily in this situation, but as I said, this wasn't necessarily my strongest set.
Yeah, I do think as well with that pick, there's always the take the lower mana cost card if in doubt.
If you're not sure, take that. Yeah, I think that's generally a decent rule. Or I love that Spawn Gang Commander.
Yeah, Spawn Gang was really great in this. I saw many games just utterly decided by that card. When it came down, it seemed to games seemed to resolve around it a lot of the time.
Yeah, and when I was playing like a small, like low to the ground deck, it's bane of your life when you've just got a load of small things, and they just use their one card to kill them all. He loves his double face cards.
He does, yeah, and there was another alt store there that he passed on. But the double face cards were really powerful, and when you had a large amount of them, they did give your deck nice flexibility. We've
passed on quite a few of the top end cards now. A couple of Altar Swords, Breaker of Creation. One of the comments I was going to make about the passing of the Breaker is that this set did have quite a few just big dumb things that you could pick up quite late if you needed to. If you'd got your ramp together, you could have played like that green blue card that we've just passed.
Yeah, it had this sense that you will get it. You will always get your top end. A large amount of them being colourless also meant that there was you weren't just looking for your big green top end.
Yes, I get you.
You were also open to other colours and taking cards from that as well. And then splashing them with those 3 colour lands earlier.
Yeah, Dan's got quite a few of those so far, right? What, 3 or 4 of the...
Yeah, 3 or 4. So I think he'll be just looking to try and take the highest power level card here out of each of the packs. Moving to the front, and Oozewag also can see a Dread Mask there.
What were your thoughts on the Oozewag? Because I really liked the Oozewag. I felt like it was the way of getting through board stalls.
Yeah, Oozewag giving trample, which of the counters was really powerful. It was another one of those cards that kind of felt like it could turn the tide of a game and make the game resolve around it. especially in those green-black decks that were
Yeah.
around. Involved counters a lot more.
I was going to say that the green-black deck was where I actively wanted the card.
In saying that, Dreadmask also gave creatures trample, so take
It
a
did.
pick, I suppose.
Well, one costs 2 less mana than the other.
Correct. Let's see what we've got here in this pack.
This has felt
Not
like
a
a fairly
good
weak
pack.
pack for him.
I mean, I don't know about you, Nathan, but I can't remember what that.
I don't even know what it does.
Alright, okay, I'm glad we're in the same boat there.
I mean,
That's going to go ahead and take
it's yeah, it's obviously not a good card because I haven't got a clue what it did.
I don't think that's so bad. I mean, that's a shame for Dan, right? We're seeing that there's nothing that really pulls him into anything else or even supports the cards that he's taken so far. Definitely does seem that passing green early on in pack 1 is maybe
He's certainly feeling it. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Like I said at the beginning, I just kind of assumed that James would go into green. It is what it feels like it now.
We see yet another landscape, glimpse.
Oh, Johnny fells the gold site. I'll take that. Yes, please.
I think Dan has done a good job of trying to take the most powerful cards. I think what he's really feeling here is that green isn't open to his left, and a lot of his picks later on in pack 2, after the Delta and Black Rare, were green picks. So
but there's so much fixing that anything that he finds in pack 3, he'll just play it.
Yeah, and we see another pack there with not really a card Dan wants to take.
I'll take a last pick removal spell for my white deck.
Sure.
Rude.
What do you think about Dan's? I mean, we're gonna have a quick look here. What do you think about this? And it looks to me that we're in the Jun, got the rum.
It's Jun's, but it seems like it's just a lower power level than what I'd want from a pile at this point.
I mean, this is what happens when you take cards for monetary value, I suppose. When you
well, yeah.
Yeah, when you take the monetary value, it can really hurt your deck. Not only because you haven't got that card, but then also because you're passing it, I suppose. So, passing a signal that you necessarily don't want to do.
But like I said, I don't think he's in that bad a position, just considering he can play anything now.
I mean, here we see Reveal Last, which was a great spell again.
Oh.
Wow, this pack.
So we've got green removal spell and 2 red rares. We've taken the more aggro slanted one, but I suppose this Lelia got you card advantage as well, so probably
Lilia
is just good.
Rare in this set.
Yeah.
Lilia was so powerful. I'm going to say this for the third time. Just under card that resolved.
Yeah.
I
You
think
just
Dan
got to
will be
remove
happy
it.
with that.
Yep, for sure.
I think now
James probably is as well.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously.
I mean, we saw this a lot in X3 especially, I think. I think you could open a pack where you wanted to take 4 or 5 cards, sometimes even something like 6, and I think Dan's done a good job there in that pick, taking the best card, but he is passing 5 more again, which is a shame. I don't think he can even be confident in any of his cards that we did out ago.
I remember passing this pack and thinking, here you go, Dan. You're welcome.
Another great pack here, we see Assault and the Wombat, also great. I think taking the Horrific Salt there is correct. It's a great spell, and I think Dan's hoping to be green red. If he can end this draft green red, I'd be happy.
We do have a Gargantua in the deck, an Oozewag. I'd have been pretty tempted by this Cursed Wombat. Maybe that's wrong, because we don't really have much removal, but...
No, for sure, I can see that. I mean, there's an use here at this pack as well, but I mean, there it is, Psychic Frog front. That's gonna. I mean, it's a rare combo with this Pluto Delta.
Yeah, and it's terrorizing.
Yeah, more money I'm passing to him there. That card spiked in value recently.
Every format's legal, it's doing really well.
Also, a ridiculous bomb in the format, and I can't remember how many of the lands he's taken that enable a blue splash, but he's probably going to try to make it happen.
For sure. That is a reason to. That is a reason to splash up. Hit the nail on the head. That resolving the card on turn 2 was really powerful. It was powerful. Almost every constructed format. So.
I remember, I think one time just pitching 4 cards to it or something, just to keep it alive, and it ended up still riding me to victory.
Not the best way in the world.
It's not much more you can ask for than out of the 2-drop, I suppose. Let's see. It's pack.
Bit of a slowdown at the table here. I can't remember what was going on. There was some chat. There was some fun little chats going on. I really enjoyed the draft bit. You know this about me, but this is the bit that I live for. Oh, nice. Oh,
Oh, you give me another tantalising pick.
I think Malevolent Rumble was one of these cards where you were happy to for it in
Yes.
quite a lot of decks. For sure. I think Dan would just be happy to see these coming back.
Did you see the rare land there as well? The black one.
Yeah. That card really impressed me the most in a Demir archetype, the Sneaky Snackers.
Yeah, true.
The card's powerful. I mean, I think this will be the 3rd Vitalizing Pass that Dan's taken here. So I wonder if he's doing this knowing that his black is going to probably have to be played on the basis that he doesn't have
Yeah.
red
The next
playables.
question is, do I splash it?
Sylvan Safekeeper, not necessarily a powerful card. I would go ahead and take that.
No, I
Can
don't
be
think
annoying
it's
late
until
game
turn 6
if
when I can cast it.
your opponent's just playing removal.
Actually, it's probably still fine.
It can be, but ultimately I just don't personally want to have a 1-mana 1/1 in my
I
deck.
don't think I'm gonna do very well in
That
this.
felt like you were to 6 a lot of the time when I saw that card in.
I'm not
Yeah,
gonna do very well.
I completely agree with you. I know people have sung its praises. I'm just passing him rare after rare at this point.
Wow, right, Reliquary. Was there another Nightshade Triad there as
I'm
well?
in the right colours. But they're all in
Let's
one.
have a.
It's a priest and a dryad.
Yeah, I think right is the pick, and Dan's gonna be happy that he's taken those green, black, double face cards for his deck. He's
Another
gonna play this black a bit more comfortably in his mana base. Although saying that, Dan's deck's looking very full colour at the minute. That Psychic Frog as well. I wonder if he's gonna feel that at any point in his games.
Yeah, power pick or fixing pick. He's got quite a lot of fixing, mate. It's probably what's going through his head.
He takes a land there. That was the Grixis land there. That will cover 3 of his 4 colours, which we have. Foil Forest?
And I get a
Surely,
foil
Dan.
basic land.
I think you needed that for a commander deck.
Oh, mate, it's probably £2. He'll pocket that money.
So shiny.
Wow, look at that. Shows the foiling on the camera. Thank you, Dan. Yes.
Oh, yeah, fucking do it.
I mean, I don't know about you, Nathan, but it's nice to see Dan having a time here, taking some rares that are worth a lot of money. I think, regardless how his gameplay goes, I think Dan's gonna.
Oh yeah, for sure. This has definitely been a good result for him. I remember at this point saying, if you like that foil land, you just wait.
Because in this pack, there's another. I mean, the Meddler might be going in this 4-color deck. That card in, I know, like in a lot of Simic, Eldrazi deck, that card's.
Yeah, it could be, but I don't think you want to add another blue card in the deck. He's probably not thinking. I'm not even sure I'm going to play the frog at this point, but
yeah. Here we are, getting to the pack 3. What do you think about Dan's deck so far?
I think it's probably not changed that much. We've added a few rares. There's, I guess, Lelia, White. They are strong.
There's a Gravetake here, 3, I think.
Yeah, you just take that, right?
No. I'm black
I do
I'm
think
really glad that there's no foil land in this pack, because I think this very big might be making cut.
I do think that you can kind of feel that this is a higher power pod in terms of like player level.
For sure.
I feel like sometimes it's palpable when you're drafting around other good players and you're really having to fight for a lane. But I don't think he'll feel too bad about the pile that he's ended up with.
What? How many picks in?
Yeah, I would agree. I think anytime NMH3 drafting happy.
So this is the final pile.
That's why I pivoted out of green, because I thought Kieran...
Yeah.
I mean, there certainly is power level.
Yeah, there is. I think it did come together.
There's low cost bombs and premium.
Yeah. Right, that was sweet. We've finished the draft now, so this is the table. We've got any surprises? Let's see. I love seeing what everybody ended up drafting, like revealing the colours of what everybody was drafting. So I played red white to Dan's right, as you can see. James,
Saw that in pack 1.
look at James's deck, and the colours that James has ended up in compared to what Dan's been doing. Oh dear. And then we've got Kieran across the table playing Jund as well. I know that Dan to my right was playing a more aggressively slanted red-black deck. Stephen R ended up in red-blue energy. Stephen Waddingham took all of the sneaky snackers and is playing that, and Steve's got playing a green-white aggro deck. And that's what we've got. So now I think we can go straight into having a look at the deck lists that were built. If you fancy sticking with us, I think Kieran is going to join us to talk through some of the deck lists as well. Hey, Kieran.
Hello there.
Oh, he is there. What?
Didn't fall asleep.
Mate, I was worrying a little bit.
I thought I'd leave you hanging for a little bit.
You know,
Get you sweating.
Yeah. Today, in today's world, everybody's reaching for that unmute button. So this is the deck that Dan's ended up building that we just watched him draft. He has chosen to play the Psychic Frog. Kieran, you've seen the draft as well. What were your thoughts on how that went for Dan?
I think considering there were definitely some wasted picks in there, he's ended up with 23 playable cards here. Nothing too weak. No real end game, so it's going to be difficult for him to close games out. Really looking for that Oozwag, the Spawn Gang Commander, to get there. A lot of value there, a lot of removal. So maybe get the wins with those powerful 2-drop rares being Psychic Frog and White of the Reliquary.
You think he maybe regretted not taking one of the top end cards that we saw him pass?
I would be regretting that, definitely. I think we said we saw 2 Old Swords, a Breaker of Creation. Look at the amount of colourless lands he's got there.
Yeah.
2 Malevolent Rumble as well, so can easily play a Breaker of Creation, which against some matchups it comes down, gains you 12 life, stabilises the board. And then also just play it. Magic Christmas Land, you hear Spawn Gang Commander off it, and so all of a sudden you put like 5 bodies into play.
Yeah, pretty stupid.
And he could have had 2 of them, so that is those are my only gripes with the draft, I'd say. And then you could drop some of the lower power cards, sort of like your Sylvan Safekeeper and the Priest of Titania, which don't really do a lot here.
3 revitalizing repasts. Yeah, what are they? Are they that good? Is it just because they're dual lands?
It's a dual land that also blanks one of your opponent's removal spells or helps you win in combat. It's just a modal card, isn't it? That's 1 mana, so it's just great.
Easy pick. All right, so should we have a look at what everybody else was ended up drafting at the table? I think it'll be quite interesting to specifically see what James has done. So let's go move around the table. If we move to James, same colours. We did end up with a Devourer of Destiny, which is the card that is a pre-game effect of giving you choice of your top 4 cards, I think it is.
So yeah, look at the top 4. You can put one on back on top, exile the rest.
I mean, I'm more interested in this Null Drifter, which is why James is playing blue, I suspect.
Yeah. He's also got the brilliant cards of Arriving Chrysalis and Titan's Vanguard there, which is why we're probably seeing green and red be played. It looks like red's a bit of a splash. It also looks like this is green, black, splash red, splash blue, splash colourless almost.
Yeah, I was trying not to mention that Writhing Chrysalis because it makes me pretty upset every time I see that card.
It's fine. You just hold your hard removal for it.
If you see one in a draft, you just take it and you splash it if you're playing one of those colours.
Yeah. We do see the repurposer and the Ultisaur that we saw in that pack 1. So I think you guys were right when you were discussing the draft, saying that the green cards passed to the left. Definitely put James in green, and then I think he'd have a bit of a shock when it comes back to pack 3 and all of a sudden his green cards get cut.
Yeah, interesting. I think the reason for James's name of the deck is his deck list. He was very scared of just 2 drops because his game doesn't start until quite a bit later. You can kind of see that here. But it doesn't look so bad. His top end is pretty stacked though. 2 Lava, Chrysalis, Titan's Vanguard, Ultisaur, Null Drifter. Late game's pretty strong. Right, let's move on to the next one, which was Steve. Jake, talk us through. What do you see?
What do I see? Let's have a look. So, I don't think Steve was having the problem that James was having.
You could say that.
Is that a great observation, perhaps?
But I think it's fair to say that James doesn't want to play against Steve.
Let's try and break this down. The first thing that catches my eye is those faithful watchdogs there at the bottom. That card on turn 2 is probably what Steve's hoping for the most. They'll allow some more powerful curve outs. Just trying to remember what these cards will do.
There's quite a few cards in that 2-drop slot that you wouldn't necessarily be that excited about playing though, right? You've got a couple of Foul Strikes, Hydra Trainer, Lion Umbra.
Yeah, for sure. I think Steve's taken a lower curve here in the hope that the ability to curve out on people maybe playing some slower Eldrazi decks might give him an edge.
Yep.
If I can just put in here,
go on
as well. Considering Steve is the only other player white at the table, the white cards here aren't particularly strong, so it is quite worrying and it would be nice to see what white cards you picked up.
It's not worrying for me. I quite like the fact that this is the only other white player at the table, and these are the white cards that he's got.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely true. I think the Battle Mage is probably a bit of a strange inclusion for me, but I think it was Steve's pet card for the set, so I get it. All right, interesting. Let's move on to the next one. Right, Kieran, you're the expert. This was your deck.
So this is my favourite deck of the format, and everything looks great here. You've got 3 sneaky snackers. You've got at least 1 Shadow Spinner for the draw 3. You've got Unfathomable Truths. You've got the Spymaster's Vault. You've got Depth Defiler. You've got Deep Analysis. The only thing I think you are missing is a few more bits of removal. I know we've got a Wither and Bloom and 2 Breathe Your Lasts and a Dream Inferior, so we've got 4 cards. But there's a few weaker cards here, so the Victimized, the Terramander, those are the cards you don't really want to see in this type of deck. I don't really know what you're victimizing to bring back. I know it's cool to sack off some sneaky snackers because they come back anyway.
Yep.
But there's no real card you want to bring back. The Meddler doesn't do anything on ETB, neither does Depth Defiler. The Gargantua does, but then it's not great. I've just seen there's also a Foul the Profane here as well, so there's actually more removal than I thought.
Yeah, I think the removals. I was thinking the removal suite looks okay.
Yeah.
Did you even mention the Eviscerator's Insights? Because those are key, right, for this deck?
Yeah, so you've got 2 insights, which is on its own is a combo with the Sneaky Snacker. The only reason I mentioned the removal is because the biggest downside to the Sneaky Snacker deck is sometimes you need the first couple of turns to set up.
Right.
And if your opponent goes under you, that is pretty much how you lose with this deck. If your opponent goes 1 drop, 2 drop, 3 drop, and you've just sort of gone, I'm going to play a Sneaky Snacker into hold up Abbreviate last, and all of a sudden you've taken 6-7 damage, you're behind, you're on the back foot, you can't spend your turns doing the fun stuff, which is like casting Eviscerator's Insight at sort of sorcery speed to get the card advantage and the card back, because it comes back tapped. You're all of a sudden having to leave your Sneaky Snackers back on defense. So I do think the early removal is a lot more important.
Okay. Interesting. I think this is probably the strongest list that we've seen so far, though.
It looks like the most streamlined deck at the table so far. Yeah.
If you want to see just streamline synergy deck, this is it so far. Let's move on to the next. Who's going to talk us through this one?
I'm happy to take a look at it. So I think.
Go on, rip Kieran apart.
I'm not going to do that. But the thing that does really stand out to me as we've been going through these decks is just the power of the landscapes. I'm just being reminded of what they allowed you to do in this set. They allowed you to color EC cards like this one for Separation, which I think Kieran would have hoped for a few more landscapes than 3 or other, or cards like this Malevolent Crumbles. But those cards are just so powerful. I think the landscapes, as we look, could have been higher picks for Dan for sure. This deck, however, looks really good. I think the Vampire on 2 was a really card. Gift to the Viper was just a combat trait. Thing that stands out the most again to me is that we do have a Withering Bloom, but we are lacking some removal again.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing this deck is not shy of is that late game.
Kozilek, Shilgengar.
Yeah, that pile on the right hand side can definitely win some games, but that being said, you have to get there. That's the tale's oldest.
The Rising Chrysalis will do that. Oh, I've mentioned it. Damn it.
That's a penny in the jar for you.
One thing I do want to mention with the landscapes is I think the reason we're seeing a lot of them at this table a lot more is because this is a high power table. So you're not ending up in your streamlined deck. If you're only going to end up in a streamlined deck if you're the only one at the table in it. But as we saw in Dan's draft, he was quite all over the place with the first few picks, and that led him down to sort of a 3-4 color pile.
Mm.
And if you've got one person doing it that's at the table, it's going to send weird signals along the chain, and you're going to end up with multiple people then in sort of 3-4 color decks as they're trying to sort of find their lane, which makes these landscapes a lot better as well.
Yeah, it's true. Interestingly, on that, I think the 2 players at the table who are most known for moving about a ton in a draft and ending up playing 3-4 color piles are me and Stephen W, who have both ended up with streamlined. Mine's a streamlined Boros deck, and his is a streamlined blue-black deck. But yeah, it's very true. Right, let's move on to Stephen R. Superconductors. This was interesting for me because during the draft, obviously we haven't seen my deck list yet, but I wasn't sure whether I should have been white blue or white red. I ended up in white red and I was pretty happy with it, but there was quite a lot of the energy cards at the table. So I think Stephen did quite a good job of ending up in a deck that was there and that was opened at the table. Did you feel like that, Kieran, when you were sat next to him? Or do you just not respect this deck?
So I think this deck's missing a vital thing, and that is the color white. I think for the energy deck to work, you did sort of need all 3 colors. Looking at this deck at a quick glance, we've got a lot of energy cards, and then a lot of cards that do absolutely nothing with energy.
Yep.
And I think if you just replace those with some of the white cards that I imagine Stephen would have seen, it would have made his mana base potentially worse. But in a deck like in a format like MH3, you can quite easily splash that third color. So I'm looking at this deck. There's stuff like Break of Creation, Emrakul's Messenger. These sort of draw 2 cards, and I don't see any synergy there. And if you just replace those with a couple of the white drop, maybe the white free drop that enters and gives you free energy,
Yep.
or a Hexguard Sliff, these type of cards that give you ways to also spend your energy, it would be a much more streamlined deck again.
Yeah, don't tell him to take my white cards. I'm not okay with that.
I'm just saying, if there were only 2 white players at the table, he would have seen. I think both of you were almost equidistant away from him as well, like 2 seats away. So
Yeah.
he'd have had perfect opportunity both ways to
Take a few
pick up on a lot of the white cards going past him.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, cool. Let's move on to Dan's deck. A different Dan. This was your favorite deck at the beginning of the format, right, Kieran?
Yeah. This deck felt great at the start of the format. You were just killing people whilst they were messing around with their 3-4 color nonsense piles. Which in this draft, I imagine a deck like this would do quite well.
Yeah, true.
You just want to get one of those 1-drop artifacts down, follow it with Cranial Ram, and then just start swinging every turn for 2, 3, 4 points of damage. We also see a Fury hiding there at the top, so he's not going to have trouble getting through boards. If he needs to, he can just all like Fury down a board. There's only one Refurbished Familiar, which was one of my favourite cards in this archetype, because playing a 1-mana card that makes your opponent discard a card, it's a 2/1 flyer. It's the card you want to put your Ram on in the late game because it can fly through all the dumb jump blockers they put down. But this looks like a very streamlined deck.
Yeah,
Again,
Dan was probably one of the happiest of all of the players at the end of the draft, and you can see why. Yeah, I like this list.
yeah, I think if you're in,
Sorry, you read my mind, Nathan. I think looking at this, I think Dan would have been really happy.
Yeah.
I think he's got a lot of high powers in his not seen it in the deck so far.
Nice, right. I'll let you guys rip mine apart. Good luck.
Go on, Kieran, take us away.
well, it's just one of these boring Boros aggro decks, isn't it? Don't really make any game decisions. Play card, turn it sideways. Play cards turn 1, 2, and 3. Eventually, just play a scurry of Gremlins. Use that to finish the game.
That card was so powerful.
You've got to play to your strengths, and if playing an easy deck to pilot is your strength, then yeah, just do it.
Yeah, no, this deck's great. Like the thing with this deck is, I joke about going 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop, 4-drop, but with this deck, the 4-drops you've got the Auri Auxiliary and the Scurry of Gremlins. If you can go 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop into any of those, I don't think you're losing the game. And then if they do answer that, you've got Voltstorm Angel as well, which is another mass pump spell on a flyer. So I could easily see you just going 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop, 4-drop, 5-drop onto game 2.
Yep.
Like, not much your opponent could do. And with some of the 2-drops there, looking at the Amped Raptor, the Conduit Goblin, you're pushing through so much damage early on.
Yeah, that Glyph Elemental I was super excited about as well.
Yeah. So I think, yeah.
What did you think about your area auxiliaries, Nate?
I
know that was a card that a lot of people were sort of mediocre on, but it kind of always felt good when you cast it.
This is one of the cards in MH3 that I remember talking about, because on the face of it, that card doesn't look super strong. It's a 4-mana 3/3 that can put some power elsewhere. Like that's okay, but it performed so much higher than that, and I couldn't really put my finger on exactly why, but every time I cast it, I felt like I was just getting so far ahead.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons is that power effect has haste in this, right? This is a deck that will be using those counters to attack with 9 times out of 10, and because of that, the power level card increases quite significantly.
Yeah, whether it was also a case of so many people wanting to slow games down with the Eldrazi in this format, I don't know. You didn't play much white in this format, did you, Kieran?
I did eventually. I got
Okay.
around to all the colours, but I think it's a lot to do with the 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop start. All of a
Yeah.
sudden, like a lot of cards in this set are on rate. You like all the cards are pretty much 2-mana 2/2s. So if you're suddenly making them a 2-mana 3/3, it's gonna get through whatever your opponent's played. And if you, like I say, if you combo it, you go Mandula Kite into Conduit Goblin, any 3-drop into Ori Auxiliary. I think at that point you're dealing like 12 damage on turn 3 or turn 4, and it's just game over at that point. It's just a really, it's got evasion. It makes your small dudes bigger. It worked well in the modified lists. It just did a lot for what it costs, basically.
Yeah, are you gonna before we move on to actual gameplay, you're gonna tell me off for playing Pearlier?
Yeah, I don't think it's a very good card. Yeah, it's just a 3-mana 3/4 lifelink, but it doesn't do anything in this deck.
Yeah, it doesn't really add that much, but I've got a few enchantments here, so I just played it because I wanted to.
It's only enchantment auras though, so it doesn't actually trigger off any card in this deck.
What? The bestow things?
Yeah, it doesn't trigger off those.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Judge.
boo. It's all right. It never came up.
Okay, I'm sure it didn't.
I do
Quickly goes through the footage.
I have a question for you on this, Nate. How
Yep.
many times did you hit a 2-drop off your Amp Raptor? It looks possible to curve like this.
It will not surprise you to hear that Amped Raptor missed a lot more often than it hit.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure it ever actually hit, honestly. But we'll see. With that, let's actually get into some gameplay. Thanks, guys, for going through that. That was fun. We're going to watch some matches now. For round one, we're sticking with our feature drafter, where Dan will go up against Kieran. And to help me with commentating over our round one match, we have Dan coming to join us. Hey, Dan.
Hello.
Yeah, thanks for helping me out. I get to quiz you on all of your plays and your deck. Actually, I'm keen to talk to you about your draft, if that's all right as well, while we're going through this.
It was a really interesting draft, like a really mind-boggling draft, to be honest.
Yeah, we were saying in the commentary earlier that it was palpable how high power like people were drafting to make it hard.
Yes, exactly.
Immediately I've got.
So, by the looks of my hand, I'm trying to remember the game.
Yep.
But I think so. One thing I'll say during like all of my matches, but this match in particular, I just drew really, really well considering my deck.
Yep. Yeah, what was quite interesting was the fact that you ended up in Jund adding blue. James to your left was in Jund adding blue, and then Kieran, your first matchup is Jund.
Yeah, there was a lot of Jund at the table, which, to be fair, it's one of my most comfortable archetypes in Modern Horizons 3, just
Okay.
because you start like red-green for the powerful cards, and then you end up, black just ends up being open.
Yeah.
So you kind of end up in like a mishmash of all, like, 3 of the colours. And this draft in particular was like an exaggeration, exaggeration of that.
Yeah.
But it's from turn 2.
I quite liked the way that you drafted it as just, I'm going to make sure that I've got all of my fixings to play everything that I find.
And also, I got quite lucky. Like in pack 1, I think I ended the pack with 1 piece of fixing, like 2 pieces of fixing, but they were Jund lands, so I was quite happy.
Yeah.
And then by the end of the draft, I just got all the MDFCs, all of the tries. Like it all came together. And obviously, I got past a butt ton of like really powerful rares, which carried me to the finals.
You're welcome.
Yes, exactly. For example, here's one right now.
I wanted to ask you about your first pick, actually. You took the 3-mana black card.
It was a close one. I can't remember what it was against. You probably have the better knowledge.
It's the Malevolent Rumble, I think, was the other pick that I would have gone with.
I think that it was definitely between the two of them, but I went with the rare because obviously it's an IRL draft and that card's worth £5. And B, it's like it is a decent card, especially if you need fixing, especially if you make Eldrazi spawns. It turns your colorless scions or whatever they are into actual fixing, which ended up being fairly relevant.
Okay, that's cool.
By the end of the deck. I don't regret the pick, and I ended up with 2 rumbles anyway. So
Yeah, that's very true. Very true. Yeah, green was flowing from your right. That's for sure.
yes, exactly. And I was just like, wow, like this is really good for me if green's flowing. But I think because it was so heavy green to my left, I didn't really get much into the late game or into the later part of the draft.
Hmm. By the way, just on the gameplay, I know we've been talking about the draft up until now.
Yeah.
Interesting no attack from Kieran there on turn 3, which I disagree with.
With the root waller, yes, I was expecting an attack there.
Yeah, I think it's just a mistake from Kieran, honestly. And then
Yeah,
even
it was free. It was a free attack.
yeah, it's a free attack, and then even there, I'd be tempted to just trade off the white with the brute the basking
Yes.
card.
It would be tempting, yeah. But I think he could pump it, and my white was only, what was it, a 2/2 at the time? So I don't think it was a free trade.
Yeah, and I suppose when there's a Writhing Chrysalis in hand, you feel a little bit safer.
Yeah, so basically this game is going to showcase the power of Writhing Chrysalis, because that card like single-handedly like kept him in this game when I had a very powerful start.
Hmm.
And that Writhing Chrysalis it basically blocked like 20 to 30 damage over the course of the game. It's so silly.
Yeah, it's a silly card. I mentioned it earlier, but in fact, this is a good point for me to say. I think MH3 is one of my favourite draft formats.
Oh yeah, I it's up there for me as well. I think I prefer MH2 to MH3 still, but
Okay.
MH3 was still very fun.
I think the one thing I had against MH3 was that card, the Writhing Chrysalis.
Yes.
I think it was just format warping.
Slightly too good. Slightly too good, yeah. So, but this get match will also show the power of the white. The white is just carries me through this entire game. It's such a powerful card.
Spoiler
and as you
alert.
can see, I'm sacking the mana dork to just find the land and grow the white, and it's just I will use the white's ability almost every turn. It's just that powerful.
Yeah, nice.
As you can see, my mana base is impeccable.
I like the lands, by the way. They look really nice.
Yeah, I opened a few boxes of Infinity, so I ended up with quite a lot.
Beautiful.
It was probably a mistake to open quite a few boxes of Infinity, but I wanted the sweet, sweet lands.
It's all right. You recouped some of your money from those boxes by me passing you a polluted delta.
Well, yeah, and well, what was the most expensive card? The frog, the psychic frog that I ended up splashing the blue for. You passed me the way to fix for the frog and the frog itself, and that was like 40, 35 quid or something.
Beautiful.
So Rumble here is insane with whites because every creature on mill.
And I love the fact that you have purposefully left open black-blue just in case you find it.
Yeah, that was specifically. I was like, what's the best 2-drop I can hit here? It's the frog, so I'm going to leave black-blue up for the frog.
I'm sure Kieran's reeling about the fact that you hit it.
I mean, okay, so another thing I'll say about this entire series in general, all the matches I played, Frog just underperformed. It just didn't do anything.
Interesting.
And I think because the power of Frog is turn 2 Frog is obnoxiously good. Turn 5 Frog, not as good when you've got 2 cards in your hand, and it's like. And obviously Kieran had quite a few reach creatures in his deck, so the second part was not very relevant.
Interesting, yeah, because I do remember it being one of the strongest cards in the set.
Yes, but this deck does not show its power level off very well.
Yep, I mean, when you're staring down a Chrysalis, definitely.
Yeah, when you're staring down to a card that's arguably as good, if not better, than the Frog.
I mean, the Chrysalis, I've mentioned how much of a problem it was, but there were only 5 rares or mythics that performed at a higher win rate than it.
I think at one point in the format there was only 2. It was the 3rd best performing card.
That's crazy.
Yeah. But yeah, Frog's not going to do. Spoiler alert: Frog's not going to do too much here. But it does feel really good to have 2 really powerful rares with the Sylvan Safekeeper just chilling. Yep. Kieran can't do anything, which is the power of Sylvan Safekeeper. I was telling you on the day. The card has just gone way up in my estimations. And as you can see here, what I sacked to the Marauder, it was a really tough decision, but I ended up sacking the Frog because it just wasn't doing anything on this board.
Yeah. So what's the reason behind Frog over Spawn token?
It's non-token. You can't sack the Spawn.
Ah, of course. Yes. Oh, okay, so the Sylvan Safekeeper you're keeping around.
The white was my win con. The white was my win con. If I sack the Safekeeper, he murders the white. All I've got is the Frog. It's not going to be good enough.
Yeah, cool. I really like the decision.
Yeah, I needed the white and the Safekeeper to just prevent Kieran from pushing through my 7/7 vigilance beat stick at this point.
Yeah,
And plus, it's a value generator, right? Like, I'm sacking spawns. Like, every spawn I make is a land. Like, it thins my deck, it ramps me, adds more lands on the battlefield for the Safekeeper, which is also an incredibly important, like, synergy between the two cards.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I think it does tell you, though, it gives Kieran a bit of information that you are maybe light on removal in the deck, and maybe that's a consideration as well for sacking Frog. If you've not got as much removal and you can't get rid of
Yes.
this Chrysalis, it really is just going to sit there and do nothing.
Yeah, I didn't get any of the black like hard removal. So all of my removal is like green punches. I've got a red like damage, couple of red damage spells. Like I don't have ways to actually like beat past the Chrysalis like manually.
Yeah, yeah. So it is
Um,
just going to sit there and be a wall.
yeah. So this at this point in the game, it's very much a stalemate. Like who's going to draw better? And I think it was just a case of that one of us drew better than the other.
Is there an? I'm wondering whether there are any attacks here for Kieran to hit you with a Chrysalis and start a race.
Potentially.
And whether it changes the match, changes the game.
It's hard to display. Maybe I should have used the dice to display the power and toughness of the white.
Yeah.
Interesting. Let's see what I do.
I think it's like a 7/7 at this point.
So Kieran blocks with the spawn. He goes to activate the Rootwaller, and I have the discharge in response, which is really important to keep the power of that. His chump block is down, and the power of the Chrysalis down as well. So that was a really big timing for a Galvanic Discharge.
That's a real key turn, that is, isn't it?
Yeah, that was important because that gives me avenues to like start punching through every turn because my white's just bigger than anything his Chrysalis can do. And this tutor is very, very powerful for me.
Really interesting. So you get to go and find a 2-drop because your devotion is black at the moment.
Yes. Grim Servant in a deck, like I think Grim Servant, if you can only on average find a land, it's not good enough. But if you can get it to like 2 semi-reliably, it just becomes such a like powerful enabler, especially when you've got cards like Psychic Frog, you've got Malevolent Rumbles, I have like several pieces of removal that's 1 and 2 mana. It just tutors my entire deck for basically.
I assume you just go and find a Malevolent.
I think I do settle on a Rumble since Frog's gone.
Yep.
And the white, just Rumble plus white is really powerful.
Yeah, exactly. You're feeding your white and also
finding gas.
Finding a card that you actually.
But yeah, my win conditions are slightly light in this deck. Oh, and I'm saying that with a bunch of rares in the deck, but like my top end is light. I have a few good powerful rares, but not like top end rares. I've not got any like super bombs.
I'm glad you said that. We made the exact same comment when we were reviewing your list.
Yeah.
That it's got power, but there was a couple of passes of like Altar Saws, and the Breaker of Creation was probably one of your most difficult picks.
Yes, and I mentioned that I think to someone after the draft. It was like it was either Breaker Creation or was it a Rumble? We were told
It was.
Yeah. And I was just like, well, I'm way more likely to wheel a Breaker if no one's doing the Eldrazi thing, which I know is unlikely, but like I just thought I have rares. Rumble finds all my rares, and it like synergizes with other parts of the deck, fixes my mana, ramps me. I'd rather have that than a Breaker at that stage.
Yeah.
If in pack 3 it was the same decision, I think I would have easily snapped off Breaker because I needed that last final punch.
Yeah, so this is a pretty good turn from Kieran. So we've got a repurposer into the Line Breaker, and Line Breaker's aptly named here.
Yes.
We're attacking.
I was starting to sweat when I saw the Line Breaker. This was a very interesting decision to block or not, but I was thinking, well, this card doesn't have trample, so let's just chump here. I was pretty confident that he doesn't have removal in his hand, and even if he did, I think I had a response to it. I think I drew one of my protection spells.
Yes.
Because I have like 3 of them in the deck.
Yeah, you do.
So I drew one of them, which meant, okay, Safekeeper, I could just use this as a chump, and then I can like, when I untap, I have protection still. So unless Kieran has like an exile effect, I should be okay.
So the Chrysalis could have potentially come in at that point as well, but I suppose
I think he was very scared of like attacking with the Chrysalis. Again, I'm not quite sure how big my white was, but you look, this is like a 6/6 or a 7/7. It's another Rumble here. See what I get.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a 7/7 at this point.
Yeah. So it was another interesting decision. I think I settle on the rare, the Layla. No, I settled for Gargantua.
Gargantua, I
Interesting.
think, is the better decision at this point because you get to keep drawing.
Yeah.
You know, considering
I'm
you
counting
on
and counting
board, you
creatures
look
here.
like you might be falling behind a little bit. Lelia
Yeah.
doesn't really help.
It's a 7/7 now, so it was a 6/6. It's now
Okay,
7/7.
all right, perfect. So I mean, that says that to me. That means Chrysalis could have gone quite happily.
But yeah, I'm just swinging. I'm quite happy to just like start chipping away at spawn count, which I'm doing. But yeah, there's again the line breaker is scary. But I know that I've got a couple of trump blockers. I've got the spawn that really again Malevolent Rumble just an all-star.
Yeah.
And if he wants a trample attacker, he has to attack with the line breaker, which then I can just block. I'm at 16 life. I'm not, and most of that 16 life was self-inflicted, so I'm not too worried about.
Yeah, I think it comes back to earlier on in the game. You weren't put under any pressure with even just a 2/2 that attacks on turn
Yeah.
3. It's one of the things that I do tell people when kind of leveling up in limited. You want to be trying to find every opportunity to get some damage in early, even if you're playing a slower deck, because late game it can be really important for your opponent to think, hey, I'm on the
Also,
defensive.
I had no idea, but I'm assuming because of the deck name, he had a Kozilek in his deck.
Yes, indeed.
I'm glad I never saw that.
You never know.
Yeah, that would have. Any time he drew the Kozilek, it would have been game over. I have like no answer to it.
I can't
So I got quite
cast it at this point though.
Oh yeah, I suppose it is
So
expensive, and he's been chumping like every other turn.
jumping with spawns.
Which is again interesting. Like if his out was Kozilek, like he could have chumped differently to like conserve spawns, and like he could have sacked the repurposer. He could have. That's interesting.
Yeah, because if a chump with a repurposer leaves enough mana to cast it, I believe.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is 8 mana.
So yeah, a 9th.
So this is where I play the Gargantua. Yeah, he knows about this, and I'm pretty sure I'm leaving up at least one of the indestructible tricks right now.
You didn't play this last turn, right?
No, because it would have tapped me out for what I wanted to do.
Exactly, and I wanted to bring that up just because people might be watching this and going, why didn't you cast that? But it's so important for you with the threats on board to keep your protection up.
Oh, the white dies I lose.
Yep.
Like that's why I kept the safekeeper around when I could have sacked it to the Marauder. That's why I only chumped with it when I had more protection in hand to use, when I was confident that Kieran couldn't snipe it when I was kind of down.
And this also kind of points to one of the things that I love about playing limited Magic is the fact that you didn't cast it also gives quite a lot of information to Kieran.
It tells Kieran everything he needs to know.
Yes, exactly. Spawn Gang Commander is absolutely brilliant at
best
this
draw,
point.
yeah. Kieran apt throwing the spawns at me in lovingly, as I recall. But yeah, Spawn Gang Commander was one of the more suspicious cards in my deck because again, I'm stretching my mana base so thin.
Double red.
But god, every time you cast that card, it is just an absurd uncommon. One of the best uncommons in the set. One of my favorite uncommons.
It was an overperformer for me. I didn't think it was going to perform quite as well as it did. Oh, and
okay, I think
we have a Wither.
So this is an interesting decision. He's pointing a removal spell at the Spawn Gang Commander. I think I sacked the commander in response. And I think what I could have done is I could have thought about it a bit more and maybe tried to deal like 4 damage to something by sacking another spawn. I think I hopped that off a bit too eagerly. Yeah. I think if I was to redo that turn, I would have sacked 2 spawns and killed the line breaker, dealing 2 and 2.
Okay.
I think I definitely made a mistake there. A small mistake. I don't think it mattered too much given the position I was in, but I think it definitely was a mistake not to double sack and kill the line breaker.
Having said that, you don't know that Kozilek's in the deck. You've potentially
true,
saved yourself a turn from that.
But given no knowledge,
that
was 100% a mistake.
I agree.
So he chunks with Linebreaker, which again a super interesting decision point. But it kind of forces my hand with the Gargantua. But I mean, I kind of set up for this turn perfectly. I think Kieran's got no cards in his hand, so this is basically game now.
Yeah,
I think I have like 7 cards left in my library at this point, so I'm just like, I'm not drawing. I'm not risking any way of losing because decking could be a lose. So I'm just gonna pump the Gargantua, draw no cards because it's a May trigger, and this sets me up to just win if he draws nothing, which I believe is what he does. Yeah.
yeah, scoops it up. Yeah, really interesting. I do love all of the decisions that are made in there, and I think you played it really well.
Yeah, with the exception of the Siege Gang
Yep.
or Spawn Gang, I think that was a pretty tight game from me.
I don't think it's like an obvious error though. I think it's just it may well have been more optimal.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, sure. I still am adamant that that was just a flat out. I on average
Mistake.
lose percentage points by
Okay,
doing that.
fair enough.
But
Okay.
I mean, yeah, given unknown knowledge, it might have been a good decision. But I wanna get better at limited. I don't want to be like, oh.
Yeah, I get you. I get you. Yeah.
Yeah. So game 2, I think. Again, I remember the game 1 better than game 2. I don't know what that says about this game.
Well, we'll discover it. We'll discover it together then.
Exactly. I think my mana base was quite tricky. Andy went Brood Scale again on 2. Another card that I would have loved in my deck, but
yeah, it's a strong card. I remember Kieran saying that he much preferred to have this than most of the green uncommons.
Oh, okay. My memory's starting to jog. I played this Dryad like absolutely pooping myself. If he killed the Dryad, which I think he does, I thought I was in such a bad position because my mana was shaky. Dryad was so important to cast my cards on time.
I think there was quite a loud sigh from you when that Dryad disappeared.
Yeah. James in the background. I can hear him better than I can hear us. But I mean, I had turn 3 Layla, so again, I'm complaining all that. But I think I top decked that, to be honest. So that was quite lucky. But I also was in the back of my mind thinking, well, if he also has another removal for Layla, then I might be even more of an issue. And spoiler alert, it gets killed immediately. Not immediately, because Kieran does think out his turns, but it's a pretty easy kill the rare.
Yeah, this one does need to go, unless you can put a blocker in place that.
Turn 3 Layla, it's like just an absurd, like kill me or else card.
Yeah, the first hit doesn't really matter. It's just a 3/3 haste for 3, normally. But if it gets to swing the next turn, you're in a lot of trouble.
Yeah. Interesting that you chose Layla as like the image for my deck. When she's like one of the only red cards in the deck.
Yep.
I think the white might have been a bit more of a role player / poster child for the deck. Yeah, so the Layla dies, and honestly, again, like I'm remembering this game as it goes along. I can't remember like what was the contents of my hand.
Maybe you'll reveal it to us, but we'll just go in blind. No spoilers.
No,
no spoilers
so
for game 2.
This mana base, impeccable mana as usual. This is like barely any fixing as well. This is no fixing natural 4 color.
Yeah, and by the way, I know Kieran quite well at this point, and he is seething about the fact that
seething.
Got...
I would be the same. I would be exactly the same because I am very much like Kieran in the aspect of I can't get good mana in 2 colors, and my opponent's there playing 4 colors, just shredding it all naturally. I would be so furious right now.
Yep.
But sometimes Magic is about luck. So.
It wouldn't be as good a game if it didn't have a look
plus,
element.
I think the only reason I splashed blue was because I was lacking playables and Frog was just so good that I think I warranted the risk. If not, I would have had a 3-color mana base with like impeccable mana. So it's not even like that luck based.
Yeah, I get you.
In general, but this game specifically, yes, I just drew 4 straight colors.
What are your thoughts on Uzwag in general as a card?
I every time I cast it, I am more and more impressed with it.
Yeah.
It's clunky. It's not obviously you'd rather have an uncommon or a rare, but as commons go, I think it's a role player in quite a few lists.
I think more specifically, we mentioned it earlier, but more specifically in the black green.
No, I think black green and red green because again, Chrysalis. The format is warped around Chrysalis, and giving Chrysalis trample is just
absolutely
unreal.
True.
This is an early Frog turn, early as early can be. Frog's looking. I think Frog does perform in this game, as we'll see. It was quite a close game. I'm remembering it now.
There's no reach here, so.
Yeah, exactly. So, I only have 2 cards in the yard though for now.
I mean, all it needs to do is hit once, and you've done it.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I just discard 1 card to give it flying, and then, you discard 1 card to exile 3 cards to give it flying, and I'm quite happy with that.
I mean, it's doing a bit of a Lelia impression at that point, right?
Yeah, Layla-esque. So he plays a 5. Yes, he plays another beta, Shilgengar. And again, just big, dumb rares, or even like uncommons at this point, I really struggle against. So this ended up sticking on the battlefield for way longer than I was comfortable with.
It's a pretty nice card to be able to play following a frog.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
So Shilgengar, just to remind myself, it's a 6/6 flyer for 5. Great.
Yes.
But then you can sack a thing to make a a blood token. And then the last ability is pretty much never relevant.
It's relevant, but only when your opponent doesn't have removal for Shilgengar. You can sack a bunch of your stuff, and you have the mana to bring it all back. It is a powerful ability, and it's not completely irrelevant, but I don't think you're going to use it very often.
Yeah.
But I wasn't too. At this point, I was like, okay, it's a 5-mana 6/6 flying. That's basically it. He can occasionally make a blood token, but I think at every point he could make a blood token, it was bad for him.
Right.
So as we'll probably go through it again, having a creature with trample in this situation is important. This was a think tank.
Yeah, you're in the tank. It's a problem. You've been presented with an issue, and
yeah. Takes me a long time to figure out the line. There was 2 lines. There was just attack with the ooze where I'd given what was in my hand, and there was attack with ooze and frog. I ended up going with both. Okay.
So you've not given frog flying, which for Kieran should be setting off alarm bells.
Yeah. I use my cards slightly inefficiently here, but given his blocks that specifically like this, I was quite happy to just have slight inefficiency for what it is.
Is this just a flat-out mistake from Kieran, or do you just need to try to kill it?
He did that block very fast. I think he should have taken a bit more time to go through this, because this was a very complicated attack.
Like when Kieran's completely tapped out, it feels quite sketchy.
Yes, it turns out I didn't have anything to actively punish him. But, like, this is a situation that, I kill the vampire. Even if he, like, sacks the vampire to make a blood, I just discard another card to just kill the brood. So he can't do that.
Do you know what would have... If Kieran had blocked with Shilgengar on the frog...
Yeah.
What's your...
I had burn in my hand to finish it off.
Okay.
So I would have given the frog indestructible as I did, and then 2/4 myself to burn the Shilgengar and just get it off the board.
Yeah.
So here I get back the Alayla with the Gravedig. Gravedig ended up being quite nice in the deck because I had so many like cheap bombs, like white
cards
and
you just want to get back. Yeah. Nice.
And cheap as well. So I can just do it all in the same turn, which in theory was like really powerful. Frog, Layla, and white. Obviously, in this case, I entwined it because I didn't quite have the mana. So Kieran's taken a lot of damage from my Oozewag at this point, and I'm obviously, like I said, I've got some cards in my hand that just to cover why I'm playing the way I'm playing. I have Bird in my hand basically, so the more I pressure Kieran into like making efficient blocks at the cost of his life. There isn't a lot of burn in the set. I think there was 1 specific card, or 2 cards in the set that deal face damage, and they're both in my deck.
So you've got Ghostfire Slice in hand that's the 4 damage to any target?
Yes, and that's what I'm betting on. I've also got Spawn Gang Commander in my deck, which is also burn, which I used in another round, as you've probably got the commentary for. I think it was Steve. I burned him for 8. I got Ghostfire and double Goblin Sack.
Yikes, I love it.
Yeah, so that reach was a win condition in itself. Like, here I'm just turning Layla face up for his own
just
benefit.
To show. Yeah. We know it's there.
Very sportsmanlike of me. I didn't need to do that.
Kieran. All of a sudden, Kieran's okay. All right.
That was a very good draw.
Considering there is the Chrysalis, if that's just been drawn from the top.
Yeah.
I assume it has just been drawn off the top because otherwise you probably just block with the Shulgengar on the previous turn.
Yeah.
Thinking that the frog could get in if it sticks around, but now that the Chrysalis is there, it wouldn't.
Also, the way he's tapped is really interesting. Obviously, he tapped so he could potentially sack the land, but it also tells me he's out. Like, he
Yep.
hasn't got anything,
Yep.
which was huge for my next turn, because I could play like he was tapped out. Unless he had, like, the 1-mana killer, multicolor creature, which would have been devastating. Again, that card's not playable, so... I was pretty confident that I had him on a tap out here. Maybe just in terms of win percentage, it might have been slightly better for him to leave up a black or a red mana, just so it like kind of puts me on edge, just to make the plays I want to play.
Yeah, a bit of doubt in your mind.
I don't know whether the win percentage would have been better to do that or better to leave up the land to sack. But I think in the way this game played out, I played with a very much confidence that he hadn't got anything. So I think if he left up a different land untapped, I think this game could have gone quite differently, genuinely.
Interesting. Yeah, those kinds of decisions very much depend on the opponent that you're playing against, and I do adapt the way that I play based on who I'm playing against. It really helps to know that your opponent knows the information you're giving to them, and this is an example of exactly that.
Yeah. Again, especially like me, you, and Kieran, for example, we're 3 very good limited players. And I just think that sort of thing is something he should have paid a bit more attention to.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, his thought process might have just been, I want to sack this land, which is fair enough. Like, it's not necessarily a mistake, but...
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
We don't want to be drawing too many lands at this point.
Yeah. Again, another think tank turn, definitely. This is a very complicated board state.
Yeah, there's not that much there, but it is complex. I like this.
Yeah, okay, so this is the
sense.
turn that I was just like, this is hurting my brain. I know a good attack. I'm just going to attack with the good attack and leave the other 2 back. So he goes for the double block. And because he's tapped out here, this gives me the knowledge that I can...
The lane's free. You can do what you want, basically.
I'm pretty confident. So I've got the discharge to kill the ooze. So what's interesting here is could he have sacked it? So he could have sacked it to the Shilgengar.
Just to get a blood token.
Yeah, and that's very surprising that he didn't.
Yeah, that's just a punt. That's a full-on mistake.
He could have cracked it as well end of turn, which would have been good for him.
Yeah, so Kieran's given up on seeing an extra card there.
Yeah. And he didn't crack the land anyway, so that was just a flat mistake. He didn't even crack the land that I assume, left up. So that is another punt, I believe.
Well,
again, I don't.
So the
Kozilek though, I suppose.
Yeah, there's colorless, but we have spawns, so probably. Elk. We have an elk.
Yeah, removing the trample is a pretty big deal here. It also makes my ooze a 5/5 instead of a 6/6, which is another pretty big deal considering he has a 6/6. So, not amazing for me.
But also, it's pseudo removal. It's not actually removal.
Yes.
So.
Yes. But also, obviously, like I've said to you before, I have a deal 4 in my hand, and he's at 5. Yep. And this was like the big decision moment for me because I just needed that one. I just needed to like tickle him, like
just a little worm style prod.
Yeah, I just needed something.
Oh.
So I play the haster, and this is like right now. This is my play no matter what. If I attack or leave back, so I'm gonna play the Layla and then decide if I'm going to attack. The fact
that you've not attacked straight away is surprising to me, but sometimes even just delaying gives your opponent something to think about, because you've got burn in hand, you don't have your second red mana, but it means that unless something strange happens, you're winning the next turn.
Just to interrupt you, for context here, I gave the frog flying.
Okay, alright.
So I gave the frog flying and I'm swinging with all. I exile Malevolent Rumble, and basically, again, my thought process is he's got 3 blockers, I've got 4 attackers, but also, like, the frog... The Shilgengar has to block the frog. So the thought process for me here was he's very incentivized to use Shilgengar to block the 5/5 so he gets his elk. But if I give the frog flying, it gets through and I win. So it puts him in a he doesn't know, but it puts him in a catch-22 position where he either... I mean, if he had nothing, he was dead anyway. But just giving the frog flying, I think, was a big, like,
I like it.
Play. Yeah.
You get an extra card.
And I get an extra card, of course. So this deals the damage. Obviously, I'm tapped out of red, so I can't burn him immediately. But now that he's on 3, I'm in my head. I've won this game.
Well,
There's so few ways for him to gain life.
The thing is that the frog there meant that if you had hit a red source, a mountain, you win there and then, right?
Choose a land, or potentially even.
Yeah, so this I literally just said a land, or potentially even a land. But yeah, I think I already played the land for turn, so.
Oh right, okay.
Or I had no, I hadn't. But he didn't have a multicolored creature, so I couldn't cast it for 1. So he sacks the land now. He also, I believe, he chunked with some spawns. Again, not making blood tokens here is.
Yep.
I think he missed out on like 2 or 3 blood tokens.
They add up.
They do. I mean, I would say finding a coast would be huge here, but he not quite in the spawn state. So I think this is pretty much.
Yeah, like we know this is game over because you've told us what's in your hand.
But
Kieran's trying to think.
Even in this position, like obviously, if he has nothing, he chumps, blocks. It's just not looking good for him. It really isn't. Regardless of what's in my hand, I have a commanding board state and commanding life total. He can't pressure me in any way.
Yeah.
I think I've still got like 3 cards in my hand too.
And we have an evolution witness, which is not going to do anything basically.
So that I just was looking at his graveyard there. That's what my hand was like.
Yeah. It's
So what I was doing, my hand was there because I was leaning to look at his graveyard, and I was covering his hand just in case like I could get a sight of it. So again, good sportsmanship. I leaned over to look at the graveyard, and I covered where his hand was. Such a good egg.
So we've just gone straight away adapted it. This means which means that you're not dead. He's not dead. Apart from this.
Yes. And then he goes, 1 mana life gain, I think, in response. And I was just like, ow! And then he just showed me his hand. I was like, okay.
Nice, well played.
Really well drawn by my deck, and really tightly played by me, I think.
Yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it.
Could have gone very differently, yeah.
Well, thanks so much for your input.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, catch you next time.
For the next one.
For round 2, we will switch to the other semi-final, if you like, where James managed to beat the red-blue deck, and I overcame Sneaky Snackers. Unfortunately, what this means is that I'm going to have to commentate on my own match, which is daunting. But fortunately, Kieran's going to help me out and tell me all of the things that I've done wrong, rip into me, tell me where it's all
all gone
failing.
Wrong.
Yeah.
And it means I don't have to commentate on my match now, so this is all good.
Well, that is also part of the reason why you weren't commentating on the previous one. By the way, commiserations.
That's all right. Let's just move on. Get onto this game.
You don't want to add your 2 pennies worth about the match you lost, no? Okay.
No, we'll just go into this one. One thing I will say is James does play a few cards in this matchup, which I'd love to have in my deck. And if they come up, I'll mention it. But let's go in. I think we saw you in the dice roll.
Yes, I did. I did win the dice roll, which I do like.
Being the aggro deck against a 4-color deck, I think that's gonna play a huge part in this game. Pre-game effect. Okay, we've got a Devourer of Destiny.
Upkeep, I look at the top 4 cards of my library. I can put 1 back on top and I exile the rest.
And then it just goes back into your hand.
Yeah, it's just in my hand. Okay.
So yeah, it just fixes your first draw for you. It's pretty sweet card. Not.
At the beginning of my upkeep.
This is me getting confused. I ain't got a clue what's going on. This is just craziness to me.
Pre-game action, but it happens in James's turn.
So I was expecting him to just do it then, but
no. So yeah, happens now. Not a great start from you, considering you've got a few 1-drops you want to be putting down. Planes. Gives James a chance, I suppose.
I'm gonna exile face up. I assume it's face up.
Yes, it's face
Exile
up.
the rest. There's a swamp, and I'll draw ZB Purpose, and I'll draw this one.
Okay.
So yeah,
Ooh.
pretty good if you've got
Effect amount, though.
a hand that needs lands, or you just need an extra threat. But now you do know there is a Devourer of Destiny in James's hand.
Yeah, it's quite useful to know.
Yeah.
And I
It is
think
a
it
7-drop,
becomes
though.
relevant later.
And I'll play a 4 new.
Okay, that's slightly less terrifying than the other option.
Look,
Yes,
he's
we have-
absolutely tearing into my 2-drop. Leave it alone. It's fine.
It's one unicorn, it's great. It's not as good on its own. You definitely want to start off with a 1-drop into it, so you can get the mental triggers going.
Yeah.
He does play a Nightshade Dryad, a 1/2 Death Toucher.
I will not.
No fear.
Not
I don't
not
care.
going to block. I always think you want him to block here because the 4-drop is well. There's Writhing Chrysalis in this deck, and that is one of aggro's biggest pains in this format.
Yeah. Yep. I hate that card so much. I said it earlier. But yeah, I am always trying to think against a red green deck. How do I prevent this 4-drop coming down on turn 3?
Yeah. Another thing to note with this Nightshade Dryad, and looking at the deck list, there's not many actual colourless sources for that Devourer of Destiny.
So this is actually tapped for 6 different colours essentially.
So this Devourer, this Nightshade is quite good here.
Yeah.
So here, what are you thinking? You got a handful of 2-drops. Are thinking about the best one to play, or
So I know exactly what happened here. Is I was not sure whether he was gonna block. I figured he wasn't gonna block, but I have the other 2-drop white card in my hand. That if I'd have played before combat and bestowed it, it would have looked better.
yeah, could have gotten an extra point of damage.
So I think I just missed out on a point of damage, and
Put a counter on here.
I can't remember exactly what else is in my hand as to what the other options were, but there were other options, which meant that I decided not to play that at that point. I don't know, but it looks pretty good the way that this has turned out.
Yeah, James looks like he's potentially digging for a land here. No, had land in hand.
I can play these this turn, but I can't. These remain exiled. I put into my graveyard and make a Scion for spawn for each of them.
You get 3 spawns.
So now the board is filled with 3 Scions.
Which means that
So-
scary creature can come down next turn,
Yes.
I was kind of hoping to at least hit a land drop
Yeah,
off
I
of
think
that.
that was pretty good.
and when that's cast, it exiles a colourful thing.
Yeah, colourful thing, yes. So we're going to play a land, get a trigger on our Glyph Elemental.
And the thing that going through my mind right now is normally those things look like juicy chump blockers to your opponent, right? But I know
Yes.
there's no chump blocking going on,
11.
and that's
Yeah,
exactly
so-
what happened. I get just so much damage in here that feels pretty good.
Yeah, so the aggro deck, you're doing the aggro thing, but you know there's something big coming down. So looking at your deck list, I can imagine you're hoping you've got sort of a static prison in your hand or a winged, a way to push through the damage for when this giant blocker comes down next turn. Maybe a scurry of gremlins to just go around it.
Exiles.
I have a lot of options. I don't think one big body is that scary to me.
No.
I'm actually more concerned about the Scions, weirdly.
Can I just point out misplay count number 1?
What have I done?
We have missed a mentor trigger.
Yes.
So that germ token should have got a +1/+1 counter.
Which is super relevant considering the kite could well be exiled here, and I
Yes.
will lose the germ also.
Yeah, which is also important because it's an extra point of damage that you've missed out on, so it should be 10 plays 20 now.
Yep. That one you can definitely just put down to full on mistake. The other one was
Okay.
me choosing between lines.
Okay.
keeping
And yeah,
my options open, but as you can see,
it's almost like you knew what was coming. We do get the Kite exiled, which represents the flyer being taken out. We do have Dogumbra, so we're not actually scared of this this blocker anymore. There was no land drop there, so I think hopefully, as an aggro deck, you've got more pressure to apply to the board here.
I'm going to play pay 2 for a reiterating bolt.
Gonna reiterating bolt.
so I do have options in hand at this point, but he's just missed a land drop, and I know that Ding's been complaining about how high his mana curve was in the tournament, and
Okay.
so I'm just going right. Let's just get rid of the mana.
Yeah. So here you've also missed a land drop. He's drawn or played a removal spell, got rid of your biggest threat.
You're on.
Yeah.
Is this a scurry of gremlins about to go up now? Ori Auxiliary.
Put a counter on my unicorn and attack with it.
So question, did you have the Ori Auxiliary last
No,
turn?
I topped that one. I
Okay.
would have played it on the previous.
Yeah.
Literally the entire game, I never do a land.
So yeah.
Exile it.
So yeah, like you say, you had the answer to the big threat. Sacked off 3 potential blockers to get it down. Dealt with 1 card on the end step. And then just no real pressure following that up, so you managed to get the job done.
Yeah, and that's what I was alluding to. The fact that the 3 Scions were there, I felt pretty good about, because I knew that the big dude was coming down, and I had the Dogumbra in hand ready for it.
Yeah. Nice. Let's see if there's any more misplays made in this game.
Bring him on.
So we do have James on the play now. See if he can have a well, he had a pretty good start last time. He just sort of ran out of fuel.
He just needed a land drop. The interesting decision was not taking a land from the top 4 from him when he had his pre-game effect.
He could have taken a land though. You don't know, right?
No, he told me he didn't. He took the
Right.
he took the red ramp spell instead. This one.
Yep. So again, being used as a mill free to make 3 spawns. What have we hit? We've hit land, Wormcoil Lava, and a Malevolent Rumble. The Wormcoil Lava, very interesting. Very good card in this matchup. Represents a blocker that also has lifelink and then 2 more blockers.
Yeah, lifelink's pretty scary.
You've got with Conduit Goblin here.
Yeah, I'm not using
not-
the energy.
Not using the energy. Interesting choice
It's
there,
only
I think.
it's only 1 point of damage that I'm missing out on, right?
Yes, it is, but again, in the aggro matchup, when you're against a deck that has all these giant creatures, I think pushing through these small points of damage is important. We'll see. If that energy doesn't come up at any point in the game, it's 1 point of damage missed.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
We do see James just use the 3 Science again to play a 7-drop on turn 4. This time being an Drift, so refueling his hand.
It's not fair.
Again, a 4/4 flying annihilator 1 creature down, so you can't even get in with your small little flyer anymore.
Pay 3 for a Proud Pack Rhino.
Playing a Proud Pack Rhino here. You can proliferate, get an extra energy.
Nah, we don't need energy.
No, we're gonna go for the shield counter.
That's it. And we're giving it haste now, so that I can actually get some damage in properly.
Yeah. Yeah, James takes the 4. It's definitely not worth trading off a creature there.
Ooh.
Oof. That's a great card here. So now a 2/5/5's on the board. Get an attack in, get that Annihilate trigger off.
So I just sacrifice a permanent.
Yeah, I think the germ token here is not great, is it? I don't know, actually. That germ token definitely could have got in this turn. It's probably the only thing that would get to attack.
You're allowed to actually do damage.
Yeah, but if he
again,
was on lower than 15, I think I might have considered it, but I've got a lot of work
15
to do
life.
at this point.
Yeah. You're almost in chump block territory here. Which is...
One does not simply trump block with an aggro deck.
Yeah.
That's when you start to lose.
Yeah, I don't see any good attacks from you though this turn, unless you've got Ori Auxiliary here would be quite nice. Make the Proud Pack Rhino
It only
a
makes it into a
4/4,
4/4.
but then you've saved that energy a few turns ago. Makes it into a 5/4.
Genius.
So you can
See?
get through. Yeah. let's see if we've got that play then.
One of the options is to just put the kite on something.
Yeah, I think if you put the kite on something that you lose in this game though, because
Exactly.
you're not going to be blocking with the creature you put the kite on. You'll be taking at least, say you put it on the Proud Pack Rhino, the Vanguard has trample, so you're taking potentially 10 points back.
So where I'm at in my head at the moment, I'm thinking, how do I apply maximum pressure so that this Null Drifter can't really attack me? And this is the way.
So we're going to play a Scurry. We're going to put two energy tokens into play, which are actually a zombie and a scion. That's not quite how this card works.
No?
So we're gonna find them. Oh look, we do have the 2 gremlins. So they're gonna enter. We're gonna add 4 energy because you get an energy for each creature.
Then I'm going to pay 4 energy.
And we're gonna pay it straight away to give the whole team haste and +1/+0.
Yep. And there's no way you don't just send the whole team here.
There's not, but is there not any more consideration for using this conduit goblin to make?
But you have to choose that before attacks, don't you?
Yes.
I suppose you could have just put it on the Rhino, maybe.
In my head there, James would be blocking the conduit goblin there.
Yeah, that's.
So I think spending the energy, but he doesn't. He leaves you with it, which I think is quite risky here, because now if you do have the Ori Auxiliary, but it looks like you've just picked up one of your big removal spells, your Journey Fells, the Godsire.
That's it.
Which can add to one of these creatures.
Which one's the scariest for you then? Which one do you think?
So what does it do? Does it exile a creature that's...
It would hit any of them.
Yeah, it's got to be the one that has a death trigger.
Yeah. Death trigger
you've
and
got,
lifelink.
Yeah, you've got James down to 8 life now. His life total is relevant.
Yeah. I've achieved exactly what I was saying I wanted to try to achieve. And the Null Drifter hasn't attacked me.
Yeah. So we've presented enough points of damage that James is now no longer the aggressor. But you're not the aggressor either. You don't attack this turn. James going to play another 7-drop. And we're going to hit that.
It's pretty scary.
I'm
surprised as to no attack. Yeah.
I think you definitely attack with the Vanguard here. Just because it makes your 2 other Aldrazis 1 bigger. And it's a trampler, so it forces... Well, it doesn't force a block, but it gets in a good amount of damage. And potentially leaves you this turn again on the defense, whereas a good draw here, and you could quite easily be the aggressor and potentially get the last few points of damage through.
It's going to be pretty difficult with this board to get through it.
I don't know. All it takes is a static prison to remove one of the big creatures.
Play a conduit goblin. Yep. 2 energy. Oh yeah. I've already got 1.
What's better than 1 goblin?
Second one.
Yeah.
Not quite enough to give you enough energy for that scurry of gremlins. We still do have that 1 energy that wasn't used earlier on sticking around, so still don't know if it's made that much of a difference yet, that 1 point of damage. What we got? So you've asked what cards he's got in hand.
Yeah, he didn't tell me.
So it looks like he's got a Fanged Flames and a Fangs of Colonia and a land. So that Flesh Raker is actually quite good here if he gets to cast the Fanged Flames, because he will get a 0/1 off the colourless spell being cast and get to remove one of your creatures.
Yeah, good shout. And I do remember the decision point in my hand here is I've got your expel. Problem is that gives your opponent life.
Not really what you want to be doing in the aggro deck.
Exactly.
I'd much rather give them a land or something.
Yeah, I certainly don't want to be casting this spell much, but there are some pretty scary cards on the battlefield. I just don't want to give more than 3 life. I do think that I remember thinking, although I would rather get rid of a big thing, this thing could be a major problem. I do not want to be facing chump blocker after chump blocker.
Yeah. And you've got 1 mana up. So if the early card you're representing here has got Valid Discharge.
Yeah, I like to just continue to represent that with the deck.
Okay.
I do have an attack here though, which feels good.
Yep, so we're going to go to combat, double target the Proud Pack Rhino with the Conduit Goblins to make it a 5/3. So if James does block, he'd have to lose one of his creatures. Plays the land. Does play the Fan Flames to get rid of the Conduit Goblin. We're going to overload the Fan's Colony, which is going to make this team even bigger. So actually now we're looking at quite a lethal swing, because that is a 8/8 flyer in the air.
And a couple of tramplers.
Yeah, and they're all trampling.
16 power tramplers and 9 power.
And you've only got...
I was feeling fairly confident before that point.
Yeah, so that was very much I've got you... From James' point of view, I've got you dead here. I just need to survive this turn. So that's why he took the 6 damage.
Exactly.
And you gifting that 3 life as well. Made it a lot easier to survive that turn. So we're going to go back into game 3 with you on the play. So advantage bar back to you being the aggro deck. Let's see if you can have the dream start of a 1-drop.
You don't need 1-drops.
I think you I think you do in an aggro deck.
I do remember playing a Neon Dynasty draft where I had 14 1-drops in my draft deck. That was pretty strong.
Okay, we've got another pre-game effect.
I know how this one works now.
So yeah, no 1-drop from you again. We can see your hand here. So Conduit Goblin, Plains, Mountain, or Auxiliary, Reiterating Bolt, and a Scurry. So you've got a game plan here.
I do.
Big creature light here though. If this Conduit Goblin gets removed, you're in a bit of trouble.
Yeah, it's certainly slow.
So we're going to play that out.
Just hoping to draw a creature for turn 3.
Yeah, well, draw anything, because currently you've got nothing to play.
Spoiler alert.
Was it another land?
James was so scared at that point as well with Conduit Goblin, and then I just didn't play a creature main phase 1.
So here's a great creature from James, because it's going to be able to block the Conduit Goblin, and it's also, if it does die, it leaves a 0/1 around, and it brings a 0/1 with it, so it ramps you, it blocks, it's really good here. And
James did just say he was expecting me to have Dog Umbra to shut off whatever he played, and then he played 2 bodies.
Yeah.
Fine.
So we do get an Ori Auxiliary down, not for the full value, sadly, only going to give 1/1/1 counter off that support trigger. Are we thinking about getting in for damage?
I'm always thinking about it.
Well, I think we definitely go with the damage in the air. Must be a little scared to trade off your Goblin, giving James the 5 mana, and tapping potentially 6 mana when you've seen all the threats he's got in his deck. We're not going to attack at all. Interesting. What was the reason for that?
We're about to find out the reason for that, because this does look like a mistake, but
okay.
I believe all will be revealed on the next turn.
I've got my little pen out ready to mark off misplay number 2.
Oh, you got a punt count going? Of course you did.
Yeah, punt count going. So for me, that is potentially 4 damage missed.
Yeah.
but I'm ready to be proven wrong. I play a Skittering Precursor.
So you do remember seeing what was in my hand
Yes.
when it was revealed to start with, and I have the reiterating bolt.
So yes, I assume that was going to be the line. You're going to try and kill multiple creatures with the bolt. But you'd still have to play the Scurry of Gremlins to get the free energy, right?
I don't think I'm supposed to.
So I've got 2 energy at the moment because I didn't spend any
Such a good blocker. Yeah,
for the goblin coming in for the auxiliary or airy.
Yeah. But it's free. It's free energy to replicate, so you'd still need another energy.
Yeah. The suspense is killing you, isn't it?
Mm.
You might still disagree with me once it's all is revealed.
Okay, but on James's turn, he's going to play the Skittering Precursor and play a fetch land fetch and make a 0-1, so he gets to put 2 bodies into play for the second turn in a row.
Yeah.
One being a 3/3 again, so good blocks here from James. So let's see what you've got. Okay, so it's Amp-Drop. We wanted to save the energy. For this 4-drop, we're going to hit off the top. Okay.
Okay, so it's twofold, right? If I hit something really good, I just play it. If not, I've got the reiterating bolt to remove both of the 3 drops. And I get to attack with my raptor.
I'm going to cast a reiterating.
Okay.
3 damage here and 3 damage here by paying.
I still think getting in for the 4 damage that turn is going to be more damage.
I can see it. I can certainly see it. But I'm also aware that
I'm then going to pay
Ding wants to keep some of these scions alive. But I think you're probably right.
How many cards do you have in hand?
I have 3.
I'm going to take 9. 9.
It may well have been an example of me just spending too much time in my own head. But look, so Ding's just taken all of it.
Yes.
Which was a surprise to me.
Well, we know he's got this card in hand, right?
Yep. And that's part of the reason why I kind of had that going through my head.
Yeah. So the last card I know of in your hand is the Scurry of Gremlins, which it doesn't look as good now that your board's been dealt with. The flyer's gone. That's the main source of damage. I think I prefer to get in with the Ori Auxiliary. It would have represented an extra.
It's one more damage, right?
One more damage, yeah. We'd be on 8 now. But James has got 2 blockers down. One being a giant 6/6. Gotta be afraid of what other seven drops James is gonna play.
Always.
Yep. So we're gonna tap 3 red. No, we're not. We're gonna tap. We're gonna leave the red up. We're gonna represent the Galvanic Discharge.
Told you.
We're gonna get the 2 gremlins. Get the 4 energy. I think we pay here. Yeah, let's force the blocks. Get in for 4 damage. Get James down to 5.
Yeah, this is the point where it's like squeaky bum time for an aggro deck now. Of like, I'm starting to run out, and you keep playing 2-for-1s.
So that's unfortunate there. That Malevolent Rumble hitting 3 lands and a card you can't take.
Go ahead.
But we do get a land drop. We do have a signature Salam in James's hand, so he's got removal spell for this turn. So you are right. You are in squeaky bum territory. You need a good draw here. So.
I wish I had access to just repeatable energy. That's what I want. I just want this Scurry of Gremlins to trigger every turn.
Okay. So we did draw the dog on Bro.
Return this to the hand and deal 3 damage to
Ooh.
So this return a creature to hand and deal damage equal to mana value.
Yeah.
So awkward thing is that I have Wing It in hand and all of my creatures have 1 toughness.
Yeah.
So I've got +2/+2 in hand. James is skipping a couple of steps, and I'm telling
You're
him to
wondering
back up.
whether getting this 3 points of damage in now put James down to 2.
And I do go for that.
Yeah. Another thing with Wingit, I hope we represent it correctly, is it does give a flying counter. So this gremlin is going to be able to fly over next
That is
turn
a
as
flying
well.
gremlin. I have just punted though for your punt count.
Oh, have we missed?
There was a scry on the Wingit that I didn't do.
Oh. So we play the repurposer, which we knew about. We're going to play a light, not a light pause. Sorry, that's a different card.
Yeah,
We're going to play a
it's
pearly.
basically the same thing. A white card that cares about auras.
Yeah. Ooh, it's got to be the flyer. You can't take the one here.
Yep.
So yeah, we're going to get rid of the flyer. You now don't have any good attack. Well, you've not actually attacked it, so you've passed the turn there. So at this point, as the non-aggro deck, your aggro opponent's not attacked. You've got to feel good.
Yeah, I'm. James has got to be feeling nice about where about his spot here.
It's a little scary being at 2 life. Don't think you've got any direct damage in your deck. Looking through, you don't have the Ghostfire Slice or the 4 damage card.
It's exactly what was going through my mind at this point. Trying to think, what can I do? So I've gone for a Glyph Elemental on the light pause, as you like to call it, and it allows me to attack with this into 2 blockers, 2 4/4s, because I've now got a 4/5 lifelink.
Yes, so you're going to get to take one of them off the board.
Yeah. And what it also means is, because the double block is a necessity from James, the gremlin can go too.
Yeah. So we are going to do that. We're going to get the 1 point of damage across. So this is where that 1 point from the Ori Auxiliary earlier in the game is going to matter.
Yep, good shout.
Just
so
like to point that out.
Just an interesting point though. One of the other things that I liked about that attack was, as I was thinking about what direct damage I had in my deck, the answer was I don't have any. But what I do have is Kite, which can't get through a Null Drifter, so I just need to get rid of it.
Yes.
So I've achieved that.
Yeah. So on James's turn, it's going to play 2 creatures, add into his board. Little do you know, he does have the Fangs of Colonia in hand. You are on 24 life, but Fangs of Colonia, with that Oozewag, is going to represent a lot of damage, especially because that Nightshade has Death Touch, so it's going to be able to push through a lot of damage. We're moving that Devourer off the board for some reason. No longer exists.
He's just getting confused by it, so.
Yeah. So if we do Fangs here, how much damage is that?
So that would be 4 counters plus the 3, then 2 counters.
I don't think it's enough.
6.
That quick count.
Yeah.
So we're just going to still add to the board. And like you say, at this point, you're just hoping to draw the Kite, right?
Yep, that's
so
it.
You draw the Kite, you play it, you equip it to one of your creatures, you swing over the air for lethal.
Yep. So
that is, I believe, your only line. So if you're in James's position, do you think you should be applying pressure and getting in damage? Because this turn you could have attacked with the Oozewag. You've put 2 more blockers onto the board, attack with the Oozewag. You're probably...
And then I'm
and you're not thinking of... Well, you might be thinking of Fangs of Colonia. But I'm pretty sure Fangs of Colonia on this board now is definitely lethal if you're at 20. Oh, but there we go. We've drawn the Kite, so it doesn't even matter.
Yeah. I was fortunate to get to it, because if I didn't hit it there, I think I was just dead.
Yes.
Really interesting match though. That was very, very close.
Yeah.
I was certainly fortunate to find it. And you're right. I think I could have got there a little bit earlier with a point or two early.
Yes.
Fun one.
But yeah, you noticed your only line to victory there was by forcing the attack, forcing the double block, getting that point of damage in, forcing a block on the flyer.
Our feature drafter did beat Steve in round 2, which means he's back in the top table against yours truly. Here we are. We have made it to round 3 of the Draft Championship 3 finals. And it's me. And it's Dan. I do find it really do find it really difficult commentating on my own matches. But yes, feature drafter.
And yourself. So Dan beat me in round 1.
We are well aware. We are aware.
It's not a mistake, by the way, on the colour identity of this deck. It is the same as James's. Both James and Dan sat next to each other, playing 4 colour piles,
and the
splashing
same 4
the blue.
colours.
Yes.
The same 4 colours because I didn't let them have any white cards because I just took every single one of them to their right.
Yeah. And do we know who won the dice roll here?
Yes, Dan won the dice roll as he was gloating about the fact that he had won every dice roll in the tournament.
That's how you win a tournament usually.
If
you win the dice rolls, get on the play.
I did say it helps.
Yeah. Going to start off with a Sylvan Safekeeper. Again, you're missing this trick with the aggro deck. You're supposed to play a 1-drop.
Nah.
Games would be much better if you got a 1-drop down.
I am just in case people aren't picking up on the fact that I'm joking. I do wish I had more 1-drops.
See, Dan's showing you what you're supposed to do with a 1-drop. It's got in for a point of damage. Yep. Dan follows it up with a tap plan. Doesn't want to pay the free life for that, which makes a lot of sense. Doesn't want to speed your clock up. And you're going to go with an Ixborn Unicorn. Let's see if you've learned how to play this card yet. See if we remember the Mentor trigger. So this Sylvan Safekeeper against the aggro deck looks almost laughable, right? Like
yeah,
it's a 1/1, it doesn't block.
I was so happy about the fact that this was a used up piece of cardboard.
Yeah. It's not great. You're not playing much targeted removal. And we do get a pass there, which is interesting. So what do we have? Can't quite make out the hand. Looks like there's a Newswag at the front. Can't make it out. Maybe we're just like we're on a 4-color deck. Maybe we're just missing a few sources of mana.
You'd like to think that might happen occasionally.
Yes. We're going to bestow onto the bestow creature. Play a land, so the glyph is going to get bigger, which is going to make the unicorn bigger. Which would be great if you had a 1-drop.
That'd be good, wouldn't it?
You'd be able to get the Mentor. We are going to search up a black source from Dan, so maybe that is what we were missing. No block with the 1/1 there.
Which in my head is quite scary.
Yeah.
We know that Dan has a very bomb heavy deck, or high rarity deck, and I guess he understandably is thinking, I just want to protect the big dudes that come down. Speaking of big dudes,
well, this big dude unfortunately is going to trade with your 2-drop, so it's not great. It not only does it not trade, well, it does trade. It trades with a 2/2, but then you're still left with a 3/3 as long as you've got the lands back it up. Which, if I saw your open hand correctly, you already had 2 lands, so one of your draws would have been a land, so you might miss a land drop here. No, never punished. Always have the lands. Gonna play it.
Makes you sick, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. So interesting. One of the card you've selected to represent the Jun's Rares deck is Lelia. So Dan did open that card, but just imagine how good that would be in your deck.
I know. Pretty painful. Opened to my left.
Yep.
Instead,
So-
I opened a Polluted Delta and a Psychic Frog.
which are both in this deck.
Yes.
So we're going to get in with the 4 points of damage. We're going to follow it up with a Pearl Ear Imperial Advisor because I've learned the name now.
Oh, well done.
3/4 lifelink. It doesn't really do anything. Dan looks like he is going to miss his land drop this turn. He does have a fight spell.
I love the fact that you say it doesn't really do anything when I have 2 enchantment auras on the board that are modified. Like,
Nah, it doesn't do anything.
all right, fair enough. I mean, spoiler alert, you're right, but
Yeah. So I've got to imagine Dan uses this fight spell. Interesting to go after that one. That's weird, right? Like he can block that with his 4/4 anyway.
yeah. But if he's just thinking, I can outvalue this deck, do you just go with
Hold your horses, friend.
make sure I'm getting
So you take 3.
good 1-for-1s? I don't know.
Gain 3 and then take the 6, but I'm going to speak.
So, yes, but I'm going to galvanic discharge it.
You'd rather get rid of a 3-mana 3/4 than a 2-mana 2/2. It's not really a 2/2, I suppose.
So gain the 3, because that's happened.
Yep.
I feel like it's close.
What's going on here? We have a discharge. Did we just misplay?
No, we've got a discharge targeting the Oozewag, and we're just waiting to see whether this damage does enough to kill it. It doesn't.
Okay. So we're going to protect it with an indestructible instead. We're going to put a counter on it, so we're also going to give it trample.
So
we're going to get in for the 7.
there was an opportunity there to sack a land to do the same thing, right?
Yes,
which is what I was
probably don't wanna
expecting, but and I would have been okay with,
See?
which is why I went for it.
Yes, so you didn't pay any energy, which makes sense, because you pay the energy on resolution.
Yeah, that's it.
And you knowing it's got indestructible, you're not going to pay. I still think I would have liked to kill the 4/4 there. I think if he'd have gone for the 4/4, do you think you'd have gone? Oh, you wouldn't have gone it discharge. You didn't have the. It didn't have the damage on it at that point. But yeah, considering we've gone for an attack as well. I don't know.
It's an
We're going to make
interesting
this
one.
even bigger.
Yep. But I mean, this would have been even worse if it was a counter on a 3/4 lifelink. I think.
I don't think.
Well,
Dan
the fact that Dan's attacked with the Oozewag suggests that he wants to try to race me.
Yes. But I don't think your life total really matters in this game. Once Dan takes over. So we are finally going to jump with that Sylvan Safekeeper. 6 points of damage there, too much to take. So we're going to untap with our 5/5.
Which by the way, that chump block was massive. So we need to come back to that.
Okay. So we're still being aggressive from Dan here, so I hope he's got some follow-up removal or creatures here. So we follow up with a Siege Gang Commander, which is sweet.
Yeah, it's a pretty good follow-up. The kind that you were asking for.
Yes.
You did have it.
So we are going to get to put down, we get to leave the colourless mana up, so we are going to have the option for a double sack. So we get to block, double sack, blow something up.
So, the reason why it was massive was because blocking there meant that Dan didn't go down to 7.
Okay.
And I had Wing It in hand ready to go for lethal this turn.
Right.
So I was just sat there thinking, please don't jump.
Just get land. Get to play that. Our Nyx is now a 6/6. We're definitely going to miss the mental trigger on this. I'm sure of it. 100% happening. So,
For how simple and straightforward what's going is on board, there's a lot of intricate things that are going through my head for quite a few of these.
you have to
moments.
be careful because that spawn gang commander can just flip and start targeting your face. It could represent 4 damage to your face.
And the reason for the attack earlier becomes more apparent because the siege gang commander has come down.
Yes.
So that's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
Yes. So just in a maths check.
Plus the
Oh.
plus the mentor, which
Dan.
he has realised.
Dan showing you what the card does.
But unfortunately, that just puts him to 1.
Yes. And then you will be dead on the bat swing, right?
I have. I don't know whether to spoil it.
Okay. Any card that gives 1 point of damage.
No.
No. Dog Umber again?
Yes.
Yes. Dog Umber on the 5/5. Right.
Yep. And I also elect to do it now before he finds any hexproof shenanigans, which is what's going through my head at this point. Is do I save this as a surprise or do I just go for it? Dan untaps extremely quickly, which is worrying. He had enchantment removal in his hand the whole time.
Okay.
I am dead, right?
Yes. I believe so.
Like we're
So
we're both pretty sure, but we're just going to go through it.
Yeah. So there's 5 damage from the Oozewag, an extra 2 damage from the spawn gang, and then an extra 4 damage from the sacrificing. So yes, you are dead there.
It was brutal. That was a brutal end. But really interesting how both of us were trying to set up the win.
Yeah. So yeah, advantage to Dan. Does mean you've got to win 2 now to claim the title. Win some sweet sleeves. Let's go into game 2. This time you are on the play. Let's see if you've learned. Let's see if we have the 1 drop.
Can you stop banging on about 1 drops, please? It's upsetting.
I don't see a 1 drop, but I see your favourite 2 drop. Slides it to the front. Hey, look, a 3 point of damage. It's like you played a 1 drop, right? He's fetched, took a point of damage. Your 1 drop's got him for 1 point of damage.
Yeah, easy. Just past your opponent polluted delta.
Yeah.
I downloaded new Space Marine Warhammer Space Marine game. Requires an SSD, so I ran it and it just like 2 frames a second.
I fully came into this
so I started to research
thinking I just want to try to win this tournament, not take the money cards.
Yeah.
Or at least draft it to win it.
Correctly.
Yeah.
So you didn't do what I did. You didn't open a Flooded Strand pack 1 and slam it.
No. Also, I can have a moan at you as well as Dan then for money drafting in a finals event.
Yeah, well, I've won it twice before.
Oh, well, it's taken this long. It's taken this long. We've made it to the final event, and now
we finally played a 1 drop though, and look, there's 1 drop removal. So that is important as well because that has left an energy over for you. So that could come in important. That could be important later. Gives you an extra activation on the goblin.
This is so nice, being able to play 2 1-drops, like add to my board and remove Dan's ramp is like ideal for an aggro deck.
And can I just point out we've learnt what a germ token is?
Oh, they look quite nice actually.
Yeah, better than the back of a card, right?
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, I'm looking at Dan's start. He fetched for a island, and he's played a forest. I imagine that Dryad was doing a lot of work for his mana base. Oh no, he fetched a swamp. Sorry.
Yeah, it looks like it is an island, but
It's an extra fiver. I'm raking it.
but yep, playing another rare here, Warren Soul Trader.
is this card? I think Dan mentioned it was worth a few quid as well. Not loads, but
I'm 1-0 down.
So there's a combo in Modern where you play this and sacrifice a card. The card comes back, and
I see.
it's like all cards.
I see. Yeah, well, because this was Dan's pack one, pick one, so.
So we are going to play a Scream Gremlins. We're going to get 2 Gremlins. We're going to get 4 energy.
Spend it all
And we're
straight
going
away.
to spend it straight away. We're going to attack. Are we going to remember the Mentor trigger?
Yeah.
So mentor on.
No, Dan's going to remind us. So I'd love to know, did you remember the Mentor trigger here? Or would you have forgotten?
Good question.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
So this is like the ideal start from the red-white deck, isn't it?
Take 8, go to 9.
Yeah, no, he doesn't get much better than this.
Yeah.
For my deck at least.
Yeah. Another colourless land there drawn from Dan. Can't quite make out the cards go to his hand, but he does have a forest, so we're going to play that.
Did you
He's
play
got-
this black rare in limited? Because I did mention during the draft that I don't think it's very strong.
No, for me it was always just a 3 mana 3/3.
Yeah. Okay.
You've
You've already
never
told
really
me off for
come to-
playing a 3 mana 3/4 lifelink, so.
Yeah. So Dan's going to play a 4/4 here, which lines up quite well with your board. So we're getting to that point again in the aggro game where the blockers are starting to survive and they're starting to add up. Looking at this board, you've got no good attacks. The only good attack is you've got the germ token in the air, and that's going to take 9 turns to get the job done. So
Yeah, I've got time.
we need to find some way of increasing that clock.
I'm not in any rush.
I imagine you'd love to play a card like Ori Auxiliary here. That'd be pretty sweet. But we're going to go with Ajani Fails the Godsire. Going to exile the creature.
Is it Elspeth Conquers Death? Was that the
Yeah, that
card
was the
that
one
did
from
something
Ferros.
Quite the fucking curve.
So are we going to attack with the team here or just the one? I think we're going to go with the team by the looks of it.
We are
Mental
going with
trigger?
the theme. And this mental trigger has to go on the flyer.
Yes.
We
So this represents 4 points of damage, right? So we're just getting down to a low life total.
Yep.
He's going to eat the unicorn and tap.
You got to remember that the Ajani Fells the Godsire comes with a cat as well. So I'm thinking if
Not
I can.
only a cat, but it also has a vigilance counter that you get to put on any creature.
Yeah, I didn't think that overly relevant, considering how much damage I've done versus how much damage Dan's done. But
Yeah, true.
it's just the cherry on top, I suppose.
Yeah.
I guess that throwing a piece of cardboard away there for the 4 damage is a fairly easy decision for an aggro deck that has a few flyers. Is where I was coming from.
Yeah. And you're at that point where you're almost being able to equip the kite onto your gremlin and start swinging in the air with that for 3 points of damage, right?
The sweet thing about this was
take 5.
um,
50.
Okay,
ugh.
makes sense.
I think it is kind of information that we've made sure that flyer's dead, but I guess understandable. He's dead to it in a couple of turns.
Yeah. But it is interesting because now you've got the option of, like I say, putting the kite onto this gremlin, making it a 2-turn clock.
Is
3-3 currently.
a 3-3.
Yes.
Right. Which is, and he's kind of forced your hand there if you've got nothing else to do.
Yeah, it's certainly not a bad line to take.
Yeah.
And the removal spell for the flyer, again, maybe especially with it being when it was played, suggests that there might not be any more
What am I doing? I've got
protection from flyers.
What's going on? The vigilance count. Vigilance.
We're going to put the vigilance on the cat.
I'm going to cast a conduit with a goblin. Sure.
Conduit Goblin.
Get 2 energy.
Oof. 1 off the squirry. Have we got any way? We do have a way. We're going to play that and we're just going to skeep it
My
up.
brain just
He didn't let me go for my second in a game triggering of the
Well, not only
scurry.
that, but I assume you'd get to do the raptor. You choose whether to play it.
Yeah, you just choose not to, and you use your
Choose
energy
not
for the
to.
scurry of gremlins. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you still have 1 energy left over for your conduit goblin to get another point of damage in. So going around the blockers there. Interesting. I don't know if Dan holding the 3-3 back would have made a huge difference there. But we move on to game 3. Dan on the play.
it's a co-op version of it.
And
So
this is
let's
it.
see how this goes. This is it. This is for the trophy.
The final game.
Sleeves. As we saw in the round 1, you get some pretty sweet sleeves. You get to pick a card to go on them. And you get to known as the draft champion.
So you can
Yeah, one of us is going to take the crown off you.
Yes, first time.
Relinquished.
So looking at Dan's hand here, he's got lands and spells by the looks of it. 3 lands, 3 spells. Oh, 4 lands, 3 spells.
But didn't see a red source, and he
No
had
red
red
source.
spells.
He had Galvanic Discharge, and he had the Spawn Gang Commander in hand, so opts to mulligan there.
Okay.
I think you mentioned this is the first mulligan he's taken
whole
in the top
tournament.
8, right?
Yep.
So,
Yep.
best time to take it in the only game that really matters at the end of the day.
He also said that for his 4-color deck, he's like curved out pretty much
Yes.
perfectly throughout. I mean, you were on the receiving end of that in round 1, right?
Yes. Yeah, game 1 and game 2, I think he went land. Oh, whoops! I've got all 4 colours. So here we go. Another hand. It's got lands and spells again. We have a swamp. I see a white of the reliquary. We do have the Jund fetch land here.
So many sack
very,
lands.
very eager. And do we have a 1-drop? No, we don't have a 1-drop.
Of course not.
Are we holding Galvanic Discharge up?
Course
That is the
of
question
course I am.
now.
I've always got Galvanic Discharge in my hand.
So Galvanic Discharge here is going to be very good against this white of the reliquary if it comes down, because it starts off as a 2/2, but as other creatures die around it,
It gets bigger, does it,
chump
Kieran?
block.
Does it get bigger?
You get to chump block. You get to sack off those creatures. You get to get your lands for your perfect mana base.
Is it still sore subject?
That's fine. But here comes the discharge. Answers it and leaves an energy over, which is really sweet. And importantly, getting it removed before that indestructible card can be played.
This basically just says, right, no, I'm on the play.
Yes. So we're going to grave dig it back. Oh no, we're going to go for a zombie.
It's just a 2/2.
We're going to fight. We are very scared of this 1/1.
It's not a fight, this one. This is a punch. So punches gain some life as well if you have an Eldrazi, but we do not.
Okay. So here you've got to be feeling pretty good. Opponent's mulligan down. They've used quite a few cards. Only 2 cards in hand. Just has a zombie, but you don't have a play here. Wow.
Yeah, this is pretty
painful. 2-drop, no 3-drop.
Because I remember thinking I can punish this start, but I can't.
just any card there, like Amp Raptor would have been amazing. We're going to play one of the flip lands here. And pass the turn back, so no follow-up play from Dan. What's he got? He does have a land, so I'm
That's
surprised
a
he played
really
the
interesting
land.
decision.
That is interesting.
There you go.
We found our one drop.
We did it. Ladies and
turn 4.
gentlemen, we have done it.
So, okay, I see why we played the flip land, because we've got Gargantua and we're going to try and get the Gargantua down. But you're going to get rid of that.
That was... I didn't like that. It kind of just felt necessary. Considering he was out of gas, just get rid of it.
Oh, that's huge.
It's massive.
Because that's not the right card there, but...
What's not the right card? Well, where?
The card that popped up in the bottom left wasn't the right card.
Oh, really?
Yes. But no, Ajani fails the Godside, comes down, exiles the card that would have drawn down 2 cards. Basically unmulliganed him, give him an extra card as well. But now, Dan's played a land, passed the turn back. You've triggered the Ajani, you've put your little cat token into play. And you're the aggro deck and your opponent's got nothing and you've drawn an Amp Raptor. How do you feel? Oh, you've missed.
Pretty good. Pretty good. Amp Raptor didn't hit once.
Yeah.
Whole tournament.
Right.
But
so you're going to get him for the 1 point. Dan going to draw another land. He's going to concede there. Interesting point to concede, but there we go. That's the end.
We did it.
You've won.
We did
So,
it.
now that you've won, do you know what card you're going to get put on your sleeves at all or anything?
Yeah, I do. We are going to go with the Flame Cash Gecko from Bloomborough. Colours
Sweet.
pop, and lizards was my favourite archetype in that set.
Awesome.
Yeah, the king is dead. Long live the king.
I'll come back for the 4th one, I promise.
Yeah, nice
See
one.
you there.
Nice one. Right, thanks so much for joining us, Kieran.
No problems.
And to everybody else, thanks for joining. I hope you've enjoyed it. It was a really fun tournament. Thank you to everybody who's helped with commentating, Jake as well. James helped with doing some of the editing, and a massive thank you to the Dice Cup for putting on this free event. Yeah, anything else to add to that, Kieran?
No, just bring on the 4th one, I guess. Can't wait.
Lovely. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.